My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California.
It is currently March 15th. It's Saturday morning. It's currently 9:25 a.m. This is documentation about the state of California that is being prosecuted while simultaneously gang stalking the person who is reporting the state to the feds. And so this is the simultaneous exposure and revealing of severe mental illness and malice by a corrupt government that is gang stalking the one who is prosecuting the state. And that is speaking to the simultaneity of the impossible light activity that's happening while I'm on the internet publishing yet another kidnapping that this same community, which is the entity at large, but this same community committed this kidnapping. And while I'm inside of the facilitating venue of an apartment, this is a sex offense and surveillance online, the impossible light activity, which you've already seen in a plethora of videos, that's exactly what is occurring on the what would be the north living room wall where the hallway closet door is, where you have seen all manner of impossible light in all manner of positions at the top of the hallway closet door, then at the bottom of the hallway closet door. You've seen me show the magnified size of my shadow on the wall beneath the round mirror where the trash can, the hallway closet door location. This is where a panel of impossible light appears with simultaneity to my editing the information regarding a kidnapping that this entity committed, which is speaking to a lot of people going to federal prison. And the mentally ill who are demon possessed, who are sitting around monitoring every document that I publish online, everything that I share on the Google Drive, everything that I am putting on the website, etc. With simultaneity to that, the demons are sitting around seething. This is the corrupt entity. This is the city of Ontario. This is the people of the state, the demon possessed who are sitting around fuming, hostile to my revealing their identities, revealing their criminal acts, and revealing their demon possession. And so this is speaking to the motivation behind the very foolish act of gang stalking the one who is blowing the whistle on you and has all of the evidence to prove that you are doing what the allegations assert. So this is speaking to federal prison for the AVANATH Capital Management employees. You already know that. Linda Reyes is indeed going to federal prison. Linda Reyes is going to be subject to federal prison for kidnapping me. She is the same entity that is to date engaging in what is psychological torture and domestic terrorism at the facilitating venue where she is employed, and I remain subject to criminal acts of obstruction of justice intended to psychologically harm me because I'm reporting the fact that she engaged in the state's pattern of conduct by kidnapping with the intent to obstruct justice by criminally defaming me. Still engaging in such acts that are psychologically torturing while doing so pursuant to what is a kidnapping by the same demons, the Ontario Police Department. You will see the images of what it is that I'm doing online, where this impossible light activity does appear on Tracy Banks's living room wall. That's who's going to a mental asylum. The entity, again, is exhibiting its mental illness, while that impossible light activity that I have already proven is a fact, and it occurs with simultaneity to what it is that I'm doing, and also what I happen to be engaging in, which is documenting. So as I speak to the fact that the entity is stalking me, the entity engages in what is demonstrating its mental illness via the impossible light activity that's happening inside of the apartment. The demons that are gang stalking units 33 through 64 are indeed going to federal prison for yet another kidnapping that they have participated in, while they have been engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring all of my evidence while I've been reporting them to the feds step by step. And the fact that impossible light activity occurs on the living room wall was simultaneous to my editing my website to speak to the multiple acts of obstruction of justice that includes a pattern of kidnapping by the Ontario Police Department, by the way. That is going to be disbanded. That is why the entity that is residing in units 33 through 64 and residing in units 1 through 144 are going to be prosecuted for federal group stalking and monitoring for stalking in violation of the Violence Against Women Act. And those demons residing in units 33 through 64 and working as employees of the third-party gang stalker AVANATH Capital Management, who was keeping occupants under surveillance while impossible light activity occurs inside of its apartments, where things such as the specific environment remain over its property, which is designated as a facilitating venue, where the government, clearly through the presence of impossible light, is keeping an occupant under surveillance. They're going to be prosecuted civilly and criminally for that. And this is a corrupt actor that is engaging in psychological torture tactics because I'm reporting it to the federal government. Okay, this is while they're engaging in what is the United States of America is engaging in what is domestic terrorism through the quote-unquote civilized method of gang stalking. Okay, and so this is how you have what is the combination of the fictitious exercise of authority under the law, the commercial engagement in federal group stalking and monitoring, the gang stalking by the population that is maliciously acting in concert and on behalf of the state. This is revealing what we would refer to as public corruption. But it is the United States of America's civilized iteration of terrorism, and we are no better than third world countries that teach children to hold large weapons and murder people in the name of whatever cause, okay? While totally disregarding the very notion of things such as constitutional rights. The United States of America, California, okay, is no different. Okay, so I just want to speak to, this is what's happening inside of the apartment at 9:24 a.m. I immediately capture images, which you will see shared on the Google Drive. The images reflect what it is that I'm doing online that is subject to surveillance in violation of the federal stalking statute, Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. This is the inspiration regarding the ongoing terrorism that I'm clearly subject to while that impossible light activity is happening in the first place. And then secondly, happening with simultaneity to my internet activity that infuriates the demon-possessed state actors who are keeping me under surveillance online and gang stalking me at the venue. And they're going to prison for this kidnapping that I'm publishing online. So you are able to get detailed information about what I'm doing online that you can view today, right now, on March 15, 2025, while the entity provides more evidence speaking to their permanent imprisonment in federal prison and in mental asylums, because their mental illness is continuously demonstrated while I document by a podcast and video and images the maintenance of an environment that is speaking to the mentally ill who are stalking me as a population, because that's what's going to put them in a mental asylum. And it's speaking to, again, the malice where this entity committed kidnapping via criminal defamation and putting me in a hospital and falsely depicting my character and doing so while waging false allegations upon the same stalkers who you already know, identified as the Ontario Police, upon the criminal summoning by the demon-possessed gang stalkers who you will also know, the people of the state, at the very heavily documented venue of the Ovid Family Community Library. This is the kidnapping that was committed on June 16th, 2022. And the entity is going to be subject to federal prison. It's not just those demons that were gang stalking on June 16th, 2022 at the Ovid Family Community Library who are going to prison. Alan, Stephen, Natalie, Daisy. They're documented in this podcast and on this on my website that you can go to. The website is thisisthepoc.wordpress.com, and it will be under the tab entitled California is Group Stalking, and then you will see the November 16, 2022 documentation revealing a kidnapping that I was subject to, where this same entity, you're going to federal prison because it's not just based on what the demons at Ovid Family Community Library engaged in as an entity. That same entity is to date gang stalking me in furtherance of murder and kidnapping. They're still engaging in that criminal pattern of conduct. That's why impossible light activity, panels of it appears on Tracy Banks' living room wall as I publish evidence about it. The entity is going to federal prison for the kidnapping that all of that entity committed. including that entity that resides at Woodside Senior Apartments, that is operating under a commercial name called AVANATH Capital Management, LLC, that is employed at Woodside Senior Apartments, and that is maintaining the elements of monitoring gang stalking to date and psychological torture tactics to date, speaking to impunity and malice. All right. So I just want to make sure that that's documented. That's what's occurring. That's psychological torture. It's criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. It is directly relevant to damages. It is within what is the pattern of conduct, and the fake sun doesn't have to be shining when you're looking at that impossible light, as you already know. RGS is gang stalking as an entity under what is a cloudy sky and the fake sun being covered up, and the engineered light is still present, and you are seeing them gang stalking. As I remind you about at around the same time, the fake sun is clearly shining in all of its brilliance, and it has nothing to do with the impossible light that's inside of the apartment. All right, it is the pattern of conduct, and the entity engages in exhibiting its mental illness that people, it is unambiguous, speaking to who's going to mental asylums. The people that are gang stalking by residents will be subject to mental asylums, while I'm being terrorized by impossible light activities directly pointing to their mental illness, not mine. That's the pattern of conduct. That's the purpose of gang stalking by impossible light activity, to falsely depict the character of the one who's being targeted in such satanic and psychopathic manners. Justice requires that those who are actually mentally ill, who are murderous, kidnappers, and sex offenders, are going to be subject to federal prison and mental asylums, while their mental illness is exhibited through the proven environment that is surrounding the one whom they are gang stalking, in furtherance of trying to murder and kidnap that person and falsely depict their character. That's speaking to the malice of the corrupt government that is engaged in that pattern of conduct. And it is the prosecution of third-party AVANATH Capital Management while that impossible light activity happens at 9:24 in the morning. All right, it is currently March 15, 2025. Again, the publishing regarding this kidnapping that this same community committed on June 16, 2022 is currently published online. And it is the inspiration behind the same demons who are gang stalking to date inside of this apartment, which is a sex offense that they are admittedly engaging in and continuously admitting to engage in while they are subject to what is inevitable prison. Removal from their apartment homes, disbanding as a police department, federal prison, as state actors, every named and identified and documented state actor with the Ontario Police. And they are also state actors while they are gang stalking by residents, gang stalking by place of employment, gang stalking by presence in the path at the venue. And so I just want to make sure that I speak to that. The entity is stalking with impossible light that's appearing on Tracy Banks' patio glass door. It's currently 9:36 a.m. I will take images of it while it's appearing, and it is vacillating with regard to what it has nothing to do with sunlight. It's ongoing surveillance, and the entity is remember, the entity is keeping a fake sun while LAPD is engaged in the same exact pattern of conduct in Los Angeles, not only on this day, but this time of year. So this is the entity that is speaking to, again, justice requiring federal prison and mental asylums for the entity that sought to murder and kidnap me and falsely depict my character, while also seeking to steal property that belongs to me, and in real time is still engaging in that criminal pattern of conduct years after it's engaged in multiple acts of kidnapping that it knows was being documented, and engaged in such kidnappings in order to render illegitimate my documentation, my evidence, to put criminals like Tracy Banks, who engage in criminal acts with the state via things such as devices that are unlawful, such as power of attorney, over a licensed attorney. She's engaged in things such as having a power of attorney over me as I'm a licensed attorney. I'm a well-functioning, healthy adult. I'm ignorant about this so-called power of attorney over that she's exercising over my life. So it's like a shadow cast over my life while the state is gang stalking me and engaged in an ongoing calculated system in order to ultimately murder and kidnap me. They've also stolen property that belongs to me, and the entity did so in order to get away with that theft, in order to hide the motivation for high school graduates like Tracy Banks seeking to exercise power of attorney over me, which the state of California knowingly and intentionally shares in that criminal purpose in doing so. This is a business in California through its abuse of things such as the Welfare and Institutions Code that I'm demonstrating is in need of severe revisions and adjustments while the entity is gang stalking, psychologically torturing American citizens, and then wanting to, under law that is deliberately crafted in such manners in order to abuse what is the constitutional rights of American citizens who are under no circumstances mentally ill, who are under no circumstances, under any circumstances whatsoever, belonging in the facilities where psychological torture and kidnapping is underway. But this is what I have been subject to, and I've been subject to it in order to speak to expose it. And I'm going to prosecute the mentally ill psychopaths who exercise fictitious authority under it. And they are to date gang stalking. They're doing so at Woodside Senior Apartments, where I'm exposing that. And impossible light activity is shooting all inside of Tracy Banks' apartment. A fake sun, as you already know, remains over me at this venue. You're going to remember what the entity is doing in the summer, June 16, 2022 at 10:29 in the morning. The entity is keeping the fake sun over Woodside Senior Apartments, which is not the same angle. It's not going to be the same vantage point. If it's over the Ovid Family Community Library, over the entrance like I'm capturing when I was kidnapped, then it's not over Woodside Senior Apartments, units 33 through 48. The entity is stalking as a community, just like they're stalking under that light source, and engaged in a kidnapping in June of 2022, and everybody that participated in it in any way is going to federal prison. While I publish this information, this egregious criminal act committed against me by the government, by the population, the civilian population, impossible light sweeps inside and remains inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, which is already established. I've been publishing this on a daily basis. It is the P.O.C. while engineered light is just appearing and moving about inside of the units, and the demons maintain an ongoing course of criminal interference with quiet enjoyment via amplified audible activity, which is occurring at 9:40 a.m. while the light that was on the Tracy Banks' patio glass door is now gone. Okay, that's, remember, concentrated light. That's just a concentrated level. The apartment is illuminated with impossible light, both on a so-called cloudy day and on when the fake sun is shining in its brilliance right over the top of my head for 9+ hours. Okay, the entity is subject to federal prison, all of them in units 49 through 64 and 33 through 48. They're all going to prison, and they're all going to prison for yet another kidnapping that they participated in, that they're engaged in as an entity. And they're also aware of it, and they're gang stalking, psychologically torturing while I publish it. It is currently 9:41 a.m. This is P.O.C. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C., and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. Alrighty, you recall the entity gang stalking me after 5 p.m. where the entity in unit number 41 is gang stalking me via their kids at 5:17 p.m., 5:18, 5:19, 5:20. This is the same apartment where I stood. That was just days ago. This is 9:42 in the morning where the fake sun is over the top of my head. It is here for the criminal purposes of a whole population that's residing, by the way, at Woodside Senior Apartments, a facilitating venue. RGS is indeed gang stalking. You see them under the fake sun after 1 o'clock in the afternoon while it's over the same apartment building over me. And this is a reflection of a fake sun. That's not natural light activity. It's not even the sun that's reflecting off of the window. You're looking at the demonic. All right. The fake sun that's over here on this side of the building is not perfectly reflecting off of this vehicle over here that's parked underneath the structure at this low elevation. Okay, the entity has the fake sun on this side, and then you're talking about what's over the side of the building. It's not even in any position to reflect off of that window over there. This is the demonic in plain sight. You also know that it's demonic because after 5 p.m. the fake sun is still right here, seen through this same exact patio glass door. And the entity is keeping the fake sun where the entity is in Unit 41 is using their kids to pace around and engineer light and create audible activity while stalking in the path in what is the means of what is, engaging in what is the means of surveillance, including contributing to the delinquency of minors while you're gang stalking by residents and having children engaging in that sex offense. And they're also doing it while they are aware of the fact that they are being documented. They're presenting their children in the evidence where they're going to be prosecuted. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct at 9:43 in the morning, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 hours later, the fake sun is still here. Okay, and it is here and not in Los Angeles, and it is here and not in Florida, and it's never possible in Florida. It's also not in Florida now, 3 hours ahead of us at 12:43 p.m. The fake sun is right here. This is requiring that there's more than one sun, and also it is also a scientific fact, and which is at the same time a scientific impossibility that the sun is at the same time over me in Los Angeles. But that's exactly what I'm documenting on at this time of year, where LAPD is gang stalking on a daily basis, and a fake sun is over me while I go to work every day, and while I stay inside of my apartment at 1806 North Alvarado Street, apartment number 6 on the 3rd floor, where the sun rises in alignment to my living room window. The sunset is in alignment to my bedroom window. And the sun is at no point ever departing from being over me at that venue, including on a cloudy day when those clouds part, the fake sun remains over me in Los Angeles. There is no natural environment that would include the sun being over units 33 through 48, where the entity is gang stalking me, and impossible light activity is cascading across Tracy Banks's interior of her apartment while I'm publishing the kidnapping that this same community committed via criminal defamation on June 16, 2022. They're all going to prison in units 33 through 64. The direct evidence of their gang stalking is shown through the reflection of that which is not possibly the sun off of a vehicle parked at the facilitating venue. It's a means of stalking with the fake sun, stalking with engineered light. It's also psychological torture, and you have what is over 9 hours while the fake sun is still here at the end of the day, which you'll recall. You could just pull up the video that's already on YouTube and on the website at thisisthepoc.wordpress.com. The entity is keeping the fake sun here hours later, which is the stationary idle presence of that which is not the natural environment. That's not the sun. It's the evidence of surveillance, and it's of a demonic nature, and these are all psychopaths that are all stalking as a community. AVANATH Capital Management is going to be prosecuted here by the presence of the specific environment where it's profiting off of domestic terrorism in the United States. It is currently 9:45 a.m. This is P.O.C. The address where the fake sun is, where the sun that's over Woodside City Apartments is not creating, the sun that's over Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles is not creating any sunlight on the inside. The sun that is over the apartment that you see here is not the cause of any sunlight that's going to appear in this manner whatsoever. This light actually has nothing to do with this fake sun that's sitting over the top of my head. In the same way that you saw yesterday afternoon, or days ago, I believe it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, the fake sun is right here over this tree at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you saw impossible light on the roof. This is another iteration of the same thing. It's not sunlight. This is evidence of criminal surveillance. It's also the evidence of demon-possessed gang stalkers that are residing at a venue, and they're all going to prison, gang stalking in this building, 33 through 48, and gang stalking in this very building, which is 49 through 64. And as I point out, the entity is under the fake sun and an engineer light, creating amplified booming noise with simultaneity to documentation being captured. This is the evidence disbanding the Ontario Police Department. This is the evidence removing Paul Leon and everyone under his leadership from office. This is the evidence that is removing the Ontario International Airport from operation. It's going to cease to exist. It's a national security threat engaging in domestic terrorism, doing so through what is the use of aerial surveillance using those commercial planes, and every airline is a gang stalker that is associated with the Ontario International Airport. While this entire property is engaged in psychological torture, and doing so while I'm documenting it in real time is speaking to impunity. They're going to mental asylums, and they're going to federal prison, and they will not be getting out. Okay? It is currently 9:47 a.m. The impunity is speaking to the mental illness of the demon-possessed who are being exposed in real time. They are hostile to the fact that there's sexual violence, that their stalking and obsessive behaviors as a community is being exposed. And this is the reality of the demon-possessed who are a national security threat. They're gang stalking in a community near you because it's not the sun that's over you while I'm showing it's remaining over me at this very apartment for 9 hours. This is P.O.C. It's 9:48 a.m. and AVANATH Capital Management is going to be prosecuted. RGS employees are going to federal prison. The entity is gang stalking, and I want to be clear, the entity that is gang stalking is speaking to the evidence against the entity that's going to federal prison. For example, at Alvarado Gardens, all 59 units are going to federal prison while I'm in Ontario juxtaposing what they were doing, which is exactly what I stated when I was subject to it at that time, and the entity was interfering with my constitutional right to have a job and not be subject to domestic terrorism because they want to murder and kidnap and steal from me. All right, Speaker Companies is being prosecuted when you're looking at what AVANATH Capital Management is engaging in. All right, all the demons gang stalking at Alvarado Gardens by residents are going to federal prison when you're looking at what the people of the state gang stalking by and employment at Woodside City Apartments are engaging in, and it is demonic. This is P.O.C. It is currently 9:48 a.m. 9:53 a.m. For illustrative purposes, I just captured one video showing the fake sun, but in reference to what I captured specifically on the same day last year, and at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and capture this screen recording just because of the high probative value and something that is just irreplaceable. It's like historic, so I'm capturing it right now. The entity has a fake sun over me at the same exact time last year on March 15, 2024 at 9:52 a.m. This is the video evidence. This is the fake sun that's outside. This is the evidence of a fake sun. It's not sunlight from the sun, but the impossible light activity is speaking to what is a fake sun. And at 9:52, as you can see above, the entity is gang stalking. But I want you to see it. Amplified plane activity. All right, this is the entity that stalks in plane and helicopter in the specific environment, okay? Hovering via aircraft, okay? Amplifying the audible activity and doing so, which is called the criminal elements of amplified audible activity. Amplified audible activity, which is relevant positioning while they're stalking in the specific environment, and they're literally just, pay attention, they just flew under the sun, okay? Again, the sun is a gaseous ball of fire. If that was actually the sun, the entity would be set on fire. Do you see how close they are flying around? They're flying around the sun. The LAPD flew and hovered over me next to the sun. This is a light source, which is in no way present over the Ontario Town Square, which I will continue to remind you. This is documentation establishing that. The state group stalking by the LAPD, the state group stalking in planes and helicopters in the specific environment where the entity is maintaining a light source, rising in alignment to me, setting in alignment to me, surrounding with what is the engineered light, all right, unnatural light activity, amplifying their planes and helicopter activity. These are demons in the airspace monitoring with the people of the state, and they're also watching my documentation as I'm prosecuting the Ontario Police Department while I'm in Los Angeles. This is P.O.C. It's currently 9:53 a.m. and let me be clear, it's one entity. While I'm prosecuting the Ontario Police Department, let me be clear. First of all, I'm prosecuting the state of California. The state of California was acting for a prolonged period via the demon-possessed agency. Okay, the corrupt law enforcement agency that is the Ontario Police Department. The same exact demon possession that the LAPD are exhibiting, the same exact criminal conduct that the LAPD is engaged in. It's a state act, a criminal one, and I'm reviewing the evidence that I'm going to use as a vivid illustration for the people to witness today. And I'm not talking about the criminals, the people of the state. I mean the people, the American people, the people of the world, the masses that are witnessing the exposure of what is demonic. Demonic activity is no longer a secret. It's no longer that which you can in any way deny. It surrounds you. You don't have to give any credence to any religious sect or anything like that. It's the pattern of conduct. And these are demons that are flying. They're flying in a circle. This is very demonic what they're doing right now. This is the psychopath that wants to do like this in front of you, under the light source, an engineered light. They're doing it in a helicopter by flying in circles over and over again. And these are dangerous psychopaths who are very, very upset because I'm exposing them. And while they are reviewing, literally, while I'm looking at the videos of the Ontario Police Department who are under a light source, which is not possibly the same sun as over me in Alvarado. Okay, I'm going to remind you about those timestamps because I'm going to make more videos. Then they start acting out. They start freaking out. It's monitoring. It's also a psychopath that's reacting to what it knows it's being exposed, okay? This is the people of the state that are posing a threat together. People of the state are group stalking with the state. That's why the environment is present. That's why you have what is a light source, which is not possibly the sun, hovering over me at the Ontario Town Square, remaining for the duration of the day. That's why you remain all day long with a light source. That's why you remain and surround and molest and invade with engineered light. That's why you cross path and engineered light passes all over surfaces. Those are demons that do that. They're stalking. and they're stalking as a group, as an entity. All right, it's currently 9:55 a.m. I'll be back in a couple minutes with another video because I like to give very vivid illustrations of what is the ongoing impossibility. But I'll be clear, at 10 o'clock in the morning, at 10:02, and it's 9:55 a.m., this light source you already know is not going anywhere. It likes to rise in alignment to me and set in alignment to me, which is speaking to the obsession that the Los Angeles Police Department is engaged in while they are suffering from demon possession, and this is informing their criminal conduct. They're engaged in group stalking and monitoring. Group stalking is an act of the demonic, all right, and it's criminal because the government has no business stalking, and they are stalking, and it is inevitably established by the unnatural environment that they're in. This is revealing what is demonic, okay? P.O.C. Alrighty, you can see the entity that has a sun over me in Los Angeles is not going to create any sunlight inside of this apartment in Ontario. It's not in any position over the demon in unit number 48 who's crossing path. As I zoom in on my device, pay attention to what they're doing as they do it, because they're paying attention to what I do while they are inspired to do what they do, which is create activity under a fake sun that is still here 8 hours from now, and also while I am showing you at the same time at 9:52 in the morning, it is remaining over me while the entity is gang stalking, just like you see in the sky space over my head, where the fake sun is over my head, flying directly over the top of my head in the plane that you saw in the video at the same time. This is the city of Ontario gang stalking as the city of Los Angeles gang stalking me, and this is doing so in the workplace. So that's a distinct method of prosecuting the state of California for what is the unprecedented act of domestic terrorism in the state of California. The sun that's over Los Angeles is not creating any sunlight over Woodside Senior Apartments, and it's also not creating any sunlight through the peephole. Neither is the sun being over literally anywhere in Ontario, including over Woodside Senior Apartments. That's not sunlight. This is concentrated light, just like this is not sunlight. And I'm also showing you what is a distinct method of recognizing that specific environment, and it is in the form of seeing what is the fake environment. And there, all right, this right here is in and of itself speaking to the specific environment where you're recognizing gang stalking by a population, including the government. The government is engaging in gang stalking and is relying on that population that is gang stalking. And it's very precise. As you can see, what is not the sun, the entity, the demon possessed, the demonic environment includes the reflection of the fake sun over all surfaces where it can reflect off of. That's what the purpose of this, where you're looking at even the position of the fake sun is not going to cause this reflection at this low elevation of the vehicle parked in the carport. It's also not going to be the case in the natural environment where the sun is over Alvarado Gardens over the top of my head at the same time on this same day in 2024. This is understanding what is the significance of stalking. That's recognizing stalking, conspicuous stalking, by those who know who you are. You're not stalking a stranger. You're actually stalking somebody very specific. You know who you're stalking, and you're conspicuously stalking them because you are assuming that there is no way that you can prove that you are stalking that person, that you have no actual relationship, nor do you have to have a personal relationship with them when they're maintaining presence in an environment that is conducive to criminal surveillance and psychological torture. And the engineered light, the unnatural environment, the demonic environment, referred to as the specific environment, is conducive to ceaseless surveillance, also on communication devices, where the demon possessed, just like the demon in this video, while I was zooming in during the course of this video, as I was zooming in to get the demon that was flying over my head in an airplane, the demon that resides in unit number 47, this one right here, he resides in unit number 47 over here. He's hurrying up. He runs up out of nowhere. Those are the demon possessed that are always in position. Very psychotic behaviors. Okay, he comes out of nowhere and he's rushing to cross paths with me while I'm zooming in on my device, doing so under what is a fake sun amongst engineered light. You're mindful of the fact that it is impossible that this could be the natural environment under all circumstances. This is license 8GEN638, by the way, who was stalking in the path, monitoring me while I am in use of my device. They are aware of what I pull up on the internet while I'm about to get a screen recording, etc., etc. They're assuming position and monitoring together. And RGS is gang stalking. They're going to federal prison. All right, this is not lawful landscaping. This is criminal activity creation, and they're monitoring while impossible light is happening. If you believe that a landscaping contract for what Ontario's Woodside senior apartments, it's not enough money to compensate for what is federal prison. It's not worth it, but that's what they're doing. You're going to federal prison, and they're gang stalking while they're engaging in what is the surface assessment of what is landscaping. They're stalking in the path amongst impossible light. This is what the government, this is what Satan needs his demons to do, is maintain presence and activity. Now their demonic activity is criminal conduct on behalf of the state, and they're doing it for purposes of a landscaping contract, which is not enough money to compensate them for. They're going to prison, and if they're not natural born citizens, they're going to be deported, and they're doing this over some raggedy landscaping contract. It is not worth it, in the same way that the entity will learn that it's not worth it sacrificing your housing, sacrificing your career, sacrificing your reputation, sacrificing your freedom and your liberty, where you thought that you were going to take mine. You thought you were going to have me locked up in a mental asylum because you're targeting an American citizen in psychotic methods that no one has ever heard of before. And so the ordinary target individual doesn't survive and is not able to speak to what it is that they were subject to before they're kidnapped and framed with crimes that they didn't commit, or quote unquote diagnosed for a mental health condition that they do not suffer from. And because someone is a human being and reacts even emotionally, even quote unquote irrationally, which I do not find, it's just for an outsider that's not subject to the program of psychological torture to define what is reasonable for another person to react. Okay, I'm not advocating on behalf of violence. There are people that can respond in that way. I'm not advocating on behalf of that, but I'm speaking to the fragility of the human mind, the capacity for the human mind to experience this sort of system and not react in some sort of way, to compose yourself, to even exhibit anger. And that is not any diagnosis for any sort of mental illness. The entity is entirely corrupt. They are psychologically torturing you, and then they are sitting back and looking to garner some reaction or response, and that is the material where they're calling themselves diagnosing you, when they are gang stalking you from the beginning to the end. It's entirely malicious. This is exactly what I documented on June 16, 2022. And so while the entity is stalking me with impossible light, I took the opportunity to get the documentation of the fake sun that's over me on this day in 2024. So that's the significance of that. I want to show you now, while you're looking at this fake sun that's over me at 9:58 a.m., don't forget the entity is keeping the fake sun, as you already saw, over me into the evening. So what was just captured 48 hours ago, I believe, the entity is keeping the fake sun, 5 p.m. This is the fake sun. So let me go ahead and put this side by side so you can see it. I'll let you see it right here. But this was 48 hours ago. The fake sun, the sun that never moved anywhere in order to create any sunlight on the patio glass door, which is not sunlight, it's engineered light. It's creating the shadow of an object that is a distance away from the patio glass door. That's an upright shadow. That's speaking to horizontal light. That's like laser-like light activity, not sunlight. It's also speaking to what is necessarily not moving. It's 9 o'clock in the morning now, 9:41, 9:52, 9:53 when I started this video, and this is after 5 p.m. This is 5 p.m. on the dot. The video ends at 5:08 p.m. and the fake sun is hovering outside of the same patio glass door. Remember, it's reflecting off of a vehicle parked in the same parking lot right now at 9 o'clock in the morning. And at 5 p.m., you're going to see this fake sun that's outside of the same patio glass door. This is the entity, the asininity of the demon-possessed who are engaged in a program of psychological torture, and the stage that they're all standing on, acting like this is normal life. They're all stalking together. And the demon-possessed are the ones that are engaging in this very detailed and diligent system of stalking and monitoring. Monitoring is demonic. This is captured at 5 o'clock in the evening.
This is the same fake sun that RGS is going to be prosecuted for gang stalking under, because you have what is hours earlier at 7:26 in the morning, daylight savings time or not, idle presence of a fake sun. All right, this is the patio furniture that you're seeing, the shadow of it. You see how tall it is, but the shadow is appearing down here. That's called stalking with engineered light, not sunlight. And this is the maintenance of a...
Now, hold this frame right here, because I want you to see. I want you to recall that it's 9:41 in the morning. This is 5 o'clock in the evening. this same parking lot where I'm looking out of the same patio glass door, the sun is reflecting off of a vehicle in the same parking lot. I'm looking out of the patio glass door at 5 o'clock in the evening. The fake sun is in the same position. Understand the purpose of this conduct. This is a method of stalking with the fake sun while it is shown to be a quote unquote reflection off of a surface. This is, first of all, not the sun. Second of all, it's not even the reflection of the fake sun that is positioned over me at this apartment building. Understand, you are looking at the demonic while I show you these things. The vehicle that you can see outside of this patio glass door, it's in a position where the fake sun is on the opposite side of the units 33 through 48. It's not in a position where it's going to be reflecting off and aimed at such a perfect angle where it's reflecting off of that will be the driver's side of this vehicle. It has nothing to do with the fake sun. In the same way that the engineered light, this is demonic, in other words. You're looking at a manifestation of a demonic appearance. The demonic, the spiritual, is something that you can witness in the physical. This is demonic. It's impossible that the fake sun that you see over the apartment building is reflecting off of this vehicle. And it's also impossible that the same sun is still present, by the way, physically present. This is the fake sun itself over the same location. Understand how the demonic accomplishes the same reflecting off of the vehicle. And that's how we would refer to this with words as we convey our ideas and thoughts. But this is not a reflection of the fake sun. This is the demonic. This is Satan himself. Amplified ongoing noise right now. The demons that are going to prison and mental asylums at 10:07 a.m. because of the highly damning, probative evidence that you're witnessing, and they engage in that pattern. That's why they're going to mental asylums. The federal judge is going to recite all this. The demons are thinking it's a distraction. It's not a distraction. This is why they're all going to prison and mental asylums. And don't forget the demons that like to gang stalk with their kids in Unit 41 while they're engaging in this together as an entity. They're going, every single last adult over 18 is going to a mental asylum. Understand the significance of this fake sun, quote unquote, reflecting while I'm looking outside of the patio glass door and seeing the actual fake sun outside of the same patio glass door. It's the same affect with regard to stalking with a fake sun. This is relevant to the psychological aspect of that specific environment following you everywhere that you're going, all right? Especially while I'm documenting it. Again, I'm speaking on behalf of the ordinary target individual I'm documenting. So the entity is, the demon possessed are the criminal defendants, the co-conspirators, okay? Those who are already proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and they will be subject to a very severe prosecution in a federal tribunal. But what they continuously engage in is their tactics against one who is, I am the only one that's impervious to this system. Their tactics, Satan's devices, do not work against me. So they are targeting me in the ways in which they ordinarily target people that is designed to break them down. Understand the significance of this. Understand the harm pursuant to this. When the ordinary target individual, if they were in a position, but they're not, the ordinary target individual is not getting this deep into this evidence. You're not getting this far. They're already dead. They're already kidnapped somewhere. They've already been silenced, so that no one would ever believe them for anything that they would try to articulate. Because how do you say something like, in the ways in which I have done it, that a whole fake environment, a fake sun, who has heard of that, but for proving it? This is a tragic injustice. It is tragic. And these demon-possessed state actors are sitting in courts, and they are using deliberately crafted legislation, like the Welfare and Institutions Code, to psychologically torture and harm and poison and kidnap American citizens when they suffer no mental illness whatsoever. Understand the significance. While I'm documenting the fake sun, these ignoramuses engage in what is providing evidence. Do you understand that this does not work? It's weaponry for me to prosecute them. There is no sun in Los Angeles that's reflecting off of the vehicle in Ontario, California. And the position of the fake sun over the apartment building that is still here, as you know, 9 hours later, is not going to be reflecting off of this vehicle in the same parking lot. But these are the tactics. The ordinary target individual is subject to this. And everybody in units 33 through 64 is going to prison for it. Everybody at Woodside Senior Apartments is going to be prosecuted under the Violence Against Women Act for stalking. And they're also going to be prosecuted for psychological torture, stalking together as a community, an unprecedented violation of that federal law at this HUD-regulated property. And the third-party property management company itself is going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted through the evidence of this supernatural occurrence happening while I am at the venue as an occupant. Okay, the entity is doing so with very severe malice, but the entity that is more malicious and obsessed and psychopathic, mentally ill that is less intelligent. They're not very cognizant about what's actually happening to them while they're more focused on me. Okay, this is, again, providence with regard to justice. This is providence with regard to your ability to understand the spiritual realm, this is darkness. Okay, this is spiritual darkness. Witchcraft, demon possession, demonic activity, Satan himself, who is a spirit, is very real. And you are able to know that by this very specific environment. And this isn't based on whether you believe that Christ Jesus is the Messiah, that he himself walked this earth, never committing any harm, God himself, and died on the cross and rose 3 days later. No man has ever done that. That is also speaking to what is the reality about my ability to speak this truth to you and your need for Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior if you do not know him. Because Satan is real, and Satan is using a corrupt government that is targeting American citizens, and I'm speaking to it now. I'm prosecuting it now, but this is something that has been happening for a very long time, and Satan is going to get more desperate because Satan is being exposed. Satan does not like that. Just like the demon possessed, they don't like being exposed. They become louder. They become more aggressive. They become more hostile. They become more defamatory in their speech and in their libelous conduct in corrupt venues like courts and whatnot. They become more desperate. This is Satan that is using people to engage in that. But this is speaking to the hostility toward being exposed. Their demon possession is directly relevant to the mental illness. I want to point that out. So nonetheless, this is relevant to the video that I just captured, 9:52 a.m. And so while we're here, I want you to be mindful of the fact you are looking at the impossible here.
Call the entity gang stalking me after 5 p.m. where the entity in unit number 41 is gang stalking me via their kids at 5:17 p.m., 5:18, 5:19, 5:20. This is the same apartment where I stood. That was just days ago. This is 9:42 in the morning where the fake sun is over the top of my head. It is here for the criminal purposes of a whole population that's residing, by the way, at Woodside Senior Apartments of Facilitating Venue. RGS is indeed gang stalking. You see them under the fake sun after 1 o'clock in the afternoon while it's over the same apartment building over me. And this is a reflection of a fake sun. That's not natural light activity. It's not even the sun that's reflecting off of the window. You're looking at the demonic. All right. The fake sun that's over here on this side of the building is not perfectly reflecting off of this vehicle over here that's parked underneath the structure at this low elevation. Okay. The entity has the fake sun on this side, and you're talking about what's over the side of the building. It's not even in any position to reflect off of that window over there. This is the demonic in plain sight. You also know that it's demonic because after 5 p.m. the fake sun is still right here, seen through this same exact patio glass door. And the entity is keeping the fake sun where the entity is in unit 41 is using their kids to pace around and engineer light and create audible activity while stalking in the path in what is the means of what is, engaging in what is the means of surveillance, including contributing to the delinquency of minors while you're gang stalking by residents and having children engaging in that sex offense. And they're also doing it while they are aware of the fact that they are being documented. They're presenting their children in the evidence where they're going to be prosecuted. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct at 9:43 in the morning, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 hours later, the fake sun is still here, okay? And it is here and not in Los Angeles, and it is here and not in Florida, and it's never possible in Florida. It's also not in Florida now, 3 hours ahead of us at 12:43 p.m. The fake sun is right here. This is requiring that there's more than one sun, and also it is also a scientific fact, and which is at the same time a scientific impossibility that the sun is at the same time over me in Los Angeles, but that's exactly what I'm documenting on at this time of year where LAPD is gang stalking on a daily basis and a fake sun is over me while I go to work every day and while I stay inside of my apartment at 1806 North Alvarado Street, apartment number 6 on the 3rd floor, where the sun rises in alignment to my living room window. The sunset is in alignment to my bedroom window. And the sun is at no point ever departing from being over me at that venue, including on a cloudy day when those clouds part, the fake sun remains over me in Los Angeles. There is no natural environment that would include the sun being over units 33 through 48, where the entity is gang stalking me, and impossible light activity is cascading across Tracy Banks's interior of her apartment while I'm publishing the kidnapping that this same community committed via criminal defamation on June 16, 2022. They're all going to prison in units 33 through 64. The direct evidence of their gang stalking is shown through the reflection of that which is not possibly the sun off of a vehicle parked at this facilitating venue. It's a means of stalking with the fake sun, stalking with engineered light. It's also psychological torture, and you have what is over 9 hours while the fake sun is still here at the end of the day, which you'll recall. You can just pull up the video that's already on YouTube and on the website at thisisthepoc.wordpress.com. The entity is keeping the fake sun here hours later, which is the stationary idle presence of that which is not the natural environment. That's not the sun. It's the evidence of surveillance, and it's of a demonic nature, and these are all psychopaths that are all stalking as a community. AVANATH Capital Management is going to be prosecuted here by the presence of the specific environment.
All right, so I want you to see, this is the entity keeping the fake sun at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the entity is maintaining this environment all day long because the whole population is acting together to maintain activity. And the environment also is affected by whatever it is that I'm doing. So while the demon possessed, in other words, that are keeping me under surveillance, this is the state of California. When I'm referencing the demon possessed, I'm referencing the mayor, I'm referencing the mayor's office, I'm referencing the police department, the fire department, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. I'm referencing the population, the civilian population, while the demon possessed are keeping me under surveillance. The entity that is hostile, it is a direct impact on how the weather is in real time. Okay, and also the environment itself, i.e. the engineered light that starts swiping inside the walls and on the ceilings inside of this apartment. This is a terrorizing environment. The state is going to be prosecuted for psychological torture. You're engaging in psychological torture while simultaneously seeking to criminally defame somebody who is perfectly healthy and fine. You are doing so because you are seeking to engage in the pattern of conduct. Criminal defamation is serving for kidnapping. Criminal defamation and the entity targeting you by gang stalking is that which precedes murder. It's that which is designed to cause and inspire suicidal ideation. Okay? The entity is doing this within a documented pattern by the city of Ontario, by the state of California. And it is a direct impact on the weather, as it's not even the natural environment. Okay, so the demon possessed that are gang stalking in this specific environment, what I do and as I do it, and the hostility of the entity that is keeping me under surveillance on my devices and physically gang stalking me as a population, it's an effort by the entity itself. It has a direct impact on this specific environment. That is also relevant to the prosecution of the state of California. Okay, and it's directly revealing the malice. This malice is relevant to their demon possession. These demons are very malicious, and these are psychopaths. Okay, this is closeted mental illness by your average neighbor. Okay, people who have never been diagnosed for their psychopathic personality disorder. They've never been diagnosed for their gratification for causing the suffering and engaging in voyeurism, witnessing and obsessing with the person that they like to inflict harm to. Okay, this is the mental illness of those that are in the profession of so-called mental health and psychiatry, by the way, in the medical profession. This is the mental illness of those that are in law enforcement. This is the mental illness of those that are in the legal profession. This is the mental illness of the entity that is gang stalking the civil population. It is the demon possessed. This is no exaggeration, and this specific environment is letting you know about all of this, where I'm subject to this criminal system. So I wanted to document that today. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and show you, this is what I am publishing on the internet today, where I am subject to this entity. You can see this online at the website is thisisthepoc.wordpress.com. And this is where I'm publishing the kidnapping that I am subject to on June 16, 2022 by the Ontario Police Department. This is Corey Watson. He's going to federal prison. And so is everyone else that engaged in kidnapping me from the Ovid Family Community Library, where the entity has the fake sun directly over the roof. This is speaking to the specific environment. This is speaking to the pattern of conduct that is underway, while then that corrupt entity that's engaged in public corruption then abuses the operation of the criminal justice system and the mental health program and the medical profession itself. The abuse and the exercise of fictitious authority under the Welfare and Institutions Code. This is how they engage in a kidnapping of myself. Okay, the simultaneous engagement of what is psychological torture, amplified noise right now, 10:20 a.m. AVANATH Capital Management is going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted. The ongoing simultaneous engagement in psychological torture via gang stalking and also criminal defamation, that's the malice of the corrupt entity, and you're going to prison for that. The entity does so to steal from you, to falsely depict your character in order to kidnap you, and it also precedes murder. Okay, the entity is doing so with knowledge, direct knowledge that you under no circumstances suffer from any mental illness. This is what Tracy Banks has been engaged in. This is what the community at Woodside Senior Apartments is engaged in. And they are interested and very aware of what is the purpose of gang stalking me. This is a business in California. This is why they have deliberately crafted legislation that is entirely unconstitutional, where they are able to engage in this targeting system in order to manipulate the circumstances in someone's life and falsely depict them as mentally ill under the Welfare and Institutions Code. Okay, and my evidence is and my evidence proves that. But also, the entity that has used my evidence in order to support mental illness, that's the malicious entity. They're going to prison for that. They're going to prison for that, and that is unconstitutional legislation, by the way. That is unconstitutional. That is no diagnosis for mental illness either. This is what ordinary target individuals lacking the evidence to prove the unconstitutional legislation, to prove the unlawful and corrupt activities of the state and the population. They don't typically have this evidence, and justice requires the laws must change, and those that are currently being kidnapped and those whose lives have already been taken, justice has to be answered for that. I'm literally speaking for those who are already dead. They're already gone. This is a business. They're making money. They steal from people in the state of California. They being the government directly and the government vicariously, the people of the state who use this targeting system to engage in that very unlawful objective. All right, and this is what I'm subject to. It's currently 10:22 a.m. So I just want to remind you really quickly about who's being prosecuted while the entity is gang stalking in the midst of this video. AVANATH Capital Management's impunity is a matter of evidence. While the fake sun is over me on this day at my leasing office, at the management office at what is the 1800 through 1818 North Alvarado Street, and I am specifically at building 1810. My leasing office is here, and I'm standing in front of building 1810 where the fake sun is over me, and the entity is terrorizing me in planes and helicopters with the fake sun right here over me, which is not over Alvarado Woodside Senior Apartments, over units 33 through 48, which is where it's positioned right now. That's where it's positioned right now, over this building, over me, where it remains, as you also see in this video, after 5 p.m. They're engaging in a program of psychological torture and harassment and terrorism by stalking and harassing with amplified noise that is centered in this unit, while I am also at the same time prosecuting the state. Everyone in units 30, I say it again because you can say it with me. Everyone in units 33 through 64, federal prison and mental asylums. Everyone employed by AVANATH Capital Management at this venue, including Linda Reyes, federal prison and mental asylums. Everyone at this entire venue, Woodside, all 144 units are being prosecuted for gang stalking, which is domestic terrorism, and for stalking under the violation of the Violence Against Women Act. The entire venue, all 144 units, while they are acting with the intent to obstruct justice. That is not a very wise tactic against a federal prosecutor. But this is what they're doing. You know why? Because they're mentally ill, i.e. the mental asylums. Okay, the entity is doing so on behalf of the state. AVANATH is being prosecuted for this. AVANATH is a third-party corrupt company, not exercising any constitutionally protected right to have a business. They are profiting. All of those profits are going to be drained, and damages shall serve to punish for engaging and being a criminal defendant, acting and facilitating what is federal group stalking, monitoring, domestic terrorism, in furtherance of murder, defamation, kidnapping, and theft. It is currently, again, 10:24 a.m. on March 15, 2025, and this is P.O.C. All right, it is currently 10:28 a.m. The entity, by the way, on June 16, 2022, when it engaged in kidnapping, the fake sun is sitting perfectly over the top of my head at the entrance of 215 East C Street in Ontario, California, at the Ovid Family Community Library, which is a City of Ontario venue. It's a state facilitating venue, meaning it's operated by the City of Ontario. That is speaking to the engagement, the systematic engagement in terrorism, while the city library is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. This is where the entity kept the fake sun, and it is remaining over the units 33 through 48, which is not going to be over 215 East C Street, meaning it's not going to be over outside of Tracy Banks' front door right over my head as I'm capturing it, if it's over 215 East C Street. And it's also not going to be at the same time in LA on this same day as well, because June and March, you're talking about daylight savings time. So same time, you're talking about Same time of year also. The entity is gang stalking under all occurrences as you are paying attention to what the natural environment would appear as and what is happening in the natural environment. And it is not the sun maintaining ubiquitous presence over all of us everywhere at the same time, no matter what side of the country you live on, no matter whether you're on the East Coast or the West Coast, no matter whether you are traveling from one place to another, no matter whether you are staying at one place all day long and you see the ongoing idle presence. That's not the natural environment, but this is where the entity is keeping the fake sun now. And the entity is keeping the fake sun, as you know, as you heard, as you witnessed the other day, and as you've been seeing, where the fake sun sets. Okay. And that is also, again, speaking to the ability to just capture the evidence about the malicious entity that is demon possessed, that is practicing a system of surveillance, which is targeting, and it is ordinarily referred to as gang stalking. It is indeed gang stalking. It's domestic terrorism in the United States. And it's going to be recognized as such under the federal law. So the entity is keeping the fake sun and shining bright. RGS is being prosecuted. AVANATH Capital Management is being prosecuted, and they know that they're being prosecuted because they're also engaged in surveillance on all of their devices while they keep my devices under surveillance. This is built into what the state of California does. Every person with a cell phone, you're under surveillance. You don't have privacy, and it's also what the government does. So your neighbor is able to know what it is that you're doing online. That's how they're gang stalking me and stalking with activity with simultaneity to what I do. And all I do is step outside and show you the environment where that pattern of targeting me in such ways is tying everything together and tying everyone together, especially when you're juxtaposing Los Angeles and Ontario, California, where there's no apartment complex between those two cities that's under the same sun. It's requiring more than one, i.e. the supernatural. This is demonic, and no federal court's going to disregard the evidence because the evidence has a satanic core to it. It is tangible evidence that everyone can see and hear and witness, and you cannot deny it either. The entity is engaging in the same way that you commit a murder that is inspired by the demonic. Okay, this is criminal activity that's inspired by the demonic, and it's also committed, by the way, by the demon possessed. It is currently 10:31 a.m. where the entity is keeping the fake sun, and this is where it remains until the end of the day. And that is also why everybody residing at the venue is going to be prosecuted, and everybody residing in units 33 through 64 is going to be prosecuted and going to prison and mental asylums. It's also why RGS employees at the venue are going to federal prison for their impunity. Okay, that is the ongoing repeated engagement in federal group stalking and monitoring, not the lawful execution of a landscaping contract at a private residence. They're gang stalking maliciously through commercial means and profiting from it. And they also know that they're being documented. If they had a clue, you would forfeit that so-called contract, which is going to be submitted in court as an admission, which I don't even need that admission because I have you gang stalking on video and in images and in podcasts. But nonetheless, this is how the entity that's engaged in public corruption is going to be prosecuted. It's public corruption. It is currently 10:32 a.m. and this is P.O.C. Alrighty, this is the state that is stalking, flying right over the top of my head, and you know that they're stalking because the fake sun is right over the top of my head. This is the city of Ontario, engaged in aerial surveillance over the apartment, which is, again, the facilitating venue where surveillance at a facilitating venue, not a private residence, is underway. The entity is doing so, again, through what are multiple planes now. As I step out, the entity is already flying in position over me, and on the inside of the apartment, ongoing engineer light, not sunlight. That's across Tracy Banks' ceiling. On the inside of this apartment where no sunlight is appearing on the ceiling, this is speaking to what is the environment where you're recognizing surveillance of a satanic nature is underway at what is an apartment complex where the government is maintaining surveillance. And they're all going to prison for this in this building and in this building. And as you saw during the 9 a.m. hour, 9:42, 9:53, when I started the video and the fake sun was reflecting off of the driver's side vehicle parked under that parking structure, it's over the same building. It's currently 12:27 p.m. And I've also captured the fake sun reflecting off of the vehicles in the same parking lot after 2 p.m. It has nothing to do with the actual position of what is a fake sun. This is an ornament in the sky, speaking to the identification of criminal surveillance, and it is satanic. This is what the government is practicing amongst the population. Okay, it is exposing public corruption and demon possession, and the government is flying over the top of my head. Okay, the entity is keeping the fake sun on this day as I'm documenting for the duration of the day. the gang stalking conduct by the city of Los Angeles, the LAPD and helicopter, and the fake sun that's remaining over me while I'm at work on this day in 2024. This is the P.O.C. and the population is indeed keeping me under surveillance as a cooperative effort amongst the city. All right, this is removing the gang stalking mayors such as Paul Leon. Okay, this is what Karen Bass is engaging in, and this is what I was subject to under Karen Bass's corrupt leadership in Los Angeles, California, where that population is engaged in the same exact pattern of conduct, and it is satanic. It is currently 12:28 p.m. And you know that the fake sun stays here after 5 p.m. when I'm looking out of the same patio, and the engineered light is coating the outside of the patio glass door. And this is, again, not sunlight. This is engineered light that I'm also capturing in images. It's growing in size. It's traveling across the patio glass door. It's appearing on the hallway closet door right here at the top and traveling across it. You'll see this in the images as I continuously take pictures of it. This is the stationary light that's present both in the dark before the fake sun rises and into the evening when the fake sun is on this side of the apartment after 5 p.m. And the entity is then coating while that same fake sun is still here, and it is creating the shadow, this structure on patio glass door. You're currently looking at the shadow of that appearing on this wall. That's not sunlight. It's engineered light. It speaks to the trajectory of light, and RGS is indeed gangster. This is an effort by a population together. All right, you have males and females that are engaged in sexual violence of epic proportions and federal stalking, okay? It is currently, again, 12:29 p.m. while RGS is gang stalking. That's light activity, audible activity, and they're all engaged in monitoring on the video of the internet as well. This entity that's in units 33 through 64 is monitoring in plain view right now. This is conspicuous stalking that they're engaged in. That is the state government that's flying over the top of my head during the course of video evidence, capturing its domestic terrorism, crossing path, monitoring, crossing path in the parking lot, monitoring, crossing path on Vine Avenue and G Street amongst amplified audible activity at the specific environment under the fake sun amongst what is engineered light. The government is exhibiting impunity in real time through the course of this documentation that I'm capturing. They're going to federal prison in units 33 through 64. They're going to federal prison, Linda Reyes and the employees of AVANATH Capital Management, and this is relevant to the damages that AVANATH Capital Management shall be subject to. Okay, this is my shadow that's appearing above my head. It's not sunlight, and that's a gang stalker that's engaged in conspicuous stalking. That's a federal offense. It's psychological torture and it's terrorism to conspicuously stalk someone that is not only subject to it but then is aware of it and is documenting it. That's the impunity of the demon possessed. They're stalking right in the face of the federal government as well. This is P.O.C. All right, this is pacing. Under the sun that's over Alvarado Gardens, this is the population gang stalking in Ontario. Okay, and doing so for that deliberate purpose. It is currently, by the way, 12:31 p.m. Stalking in the path with his hazard lights on at the parking spot. This is a demon that's stalking. This appears to be a Latino male. If he's not a natural born citizen, he's going to be deported. The fake sun's reflecting off of his windshield because it moves as I move. 7WFG 491 is committing a sex offense on behalf of the state with impunity and comes onto the grounds of AVANATH. That's going to be prosecuted for it. And the fake sun's no longer over Tracy Banks' apartment. It's also not over Los Angeles, where RGS is gang stalking as well. All right, this is a crime committed by an entity starting the vehicle as I walk around the corner. And the fake sun moves. It's no longer over the apartments of 33 through 48. Look at this phenomenon, okay? It's no longer over Tracy Banks' apartment, over her front door. It moves as I move. A population is stalking and doing so by making money. RGS, these employees are going to prison. And this is a sex offense that they commit on video. They know that I'm capturing. That's why they're going and making that delivery during the course of my video. That's why they're driving on the tractor in the parking lot during the course of my video. They are gang stalking on video evidence. They're also doing so on surveillance cameras of AVANATH, which is going to be evidence used against them. They're all going to prison. All right, the fake sun travels as I now come back to this building. None of this is over Alvarado Gardens. None of it. Alvarado Gardens is gang stalking as a matter of video documentation. You can see that in the body of the evidence that I captured a year ago on this day. And the demon in unit number 43 is crossing path by walking on the sidewalk right now while she is focused on me. She's maintaining activity while I'm walking back up toward this way. And now you're seeing the sun back over the apartment building. All right, this supernatural occurrence is speaking to the demon possessed who are maintaining a very deliberate and diligent system of stalking. And those sex offenders and those license plates, that's the basis of federal prison. That level of impunity,
That's a basis of federal prison. This is what a population practices, though. That's how obsessed the city of Ontario is with me. That's how violently, sexually predatory they are as well, and to maintain surveillance, even while now their system is exposed. They're all going to prison because that impunity is imputed to all of them. All right, that's a population stalking by crossing path on Vine. All right, those are males that are monitoring, stalking, sexually violating a woman on video in front of the federal government. P.O.C. It's currently 12:33 p.m. when that fake sun removes itself from being over this apartment building, where it stays here until after 5 p.m. And it is at the same time in this manner over me in Los Angeles on this day in 2024. This is a prosecution of the state of California. This is P.O.C. It is March 15th. It's currently 12:50 p.m. This is documentation regarding the video evidence that you just heard, but I want to give some follow-up analysis regarding the prosecution for obstruction of justice. This is psychological torture that these defendants are criminally liable for, and that AVANATH Capital Management is criminally and civilly liable for. But I want to be sure that their prosecution, as they are prosecuted for what it participated in as an entity, is attributed to them. I want to specifically document these demons that are engaging in a sex offense, sharing in the city of Ontario's, the state of California's engagement in criminal monitoring me also in the course of the documentation of the evidence to be presented against it in a federal court for domestic terrorism in furtherance of murdering me. That's why the state of California, the city of Ontario, is currently engaged in gang stalking and psychological torture. It's in furtherance of committing murder. And they are doing it in the course of the video documentation, gang stalking and psychologically targeting in the video evidence. So the entity that is gang stalking in the video, I want to document their license plates. They are engaged in the pattern of conduct, and they are on the property grounds of the third party AVANATH Capital Management, who is criminally facilitating domestic terrorism and psychological torture, and doing so while also the third-party company is being prosecuted at the same time. That's speaking to the level of enhancement to the federal charges to damages, etc. And the criminal defendants who are gang stalking, the third-party license 64991S3, that's 64991 SAM3. This is a white Toyota truck, I believe. It's a Toyota or a Nissan. But it is a white truck, and you will see it captured in the images at 12:31 p.m. on today, March 15, 2025. They are parked. They are parked in reverse in the parking spot number 24. They are doing so gang stalking with the state of California. They are engaging in the criminal elements of monitoring, which is superseding any admission that they would provide that is additional to the direct evidence of domestic terrorism on behalf of the state under the fake sun that is moving in real time while I move away from Tracy Banks's apartment and I walk toward the parking lot toward G Street, and the supernatural, which is also occurring because the fake sun is at the same time over me on video, which you'll see at 11:59 a.m. That's about a 15, 16, 17-minute video. And also the next video that I capture at 12:18 p.m. when I'm then walking to my apartment, which is at building 1806 North Alvarado Street, apartment number 6. And you will see engineered light appearing underneath the covered structure of that walkway where you walk upstairs to get to my apartment, which is on the 3rd floor. That's the pattern of conduct. And you can also see the fake sun directly over the top of my head, deviating from remaining over the office nearest my management office and the building 1810, where it was remaining while the entity was stalking by plane and helicopter, which I'm documenting. And then as I walk back to my apartment where the fake sun is rising, its place of origin in the morning, as I walk to that office at the during the 8 o'clock hour. So the entity is keeping the sun over me, and at the same time, the demons in Ontario with license 64991S3 are engaging in what is understood as surveillance. When you're recognizing the pattern of conduct of what the entity is engaging with regard to being in a position where they can stalk with activity, being in a position where they can engage in what is the malicious guise, the outer guise, but there is no disguise anymore. You're looking at them plainly engaging in the system, exposing public corruption. So that is, again, a demon that is working for example, Uber Eats, is engaging in surveillance, just sitting in the parking lot and aware of the evidence that I have, anticipating, for example, my capturing the screen recording, anticipating my documentation based on my ongoing surveillance that I'm subject to, and maintaining presence. They're stalking in the parking lot with the
anticipation of my use of my device to capture more evidence. And this is where you're looking at, again, you're engaging in surveillance not only when you're seeing them on the video cameras at Woodside Senior Apartments, okay? So this does not require that somebody is, but that's exactly what they do as well. They sit, engage in surveillance in the parking lot on surveillance cameras as well, but they're in monitoring me in the parking lot, sitting in their vehicles to engage in what is stalking with activity. While the engineer light inside of this apartment is underway and I'm documenting it, there are demons that are engaging in surveillance in the parking lot, and their criminal activity, their crossing of path conduct, coming in and out of the property, walking in and out of the property, driving around the property, flying over the property, is coexisting with the light activity that I'm documenting inside. This stalking, this terrorism via impossible light activity. This is how you're monitoring. And it's also how you're maintaining an unabated program of psychological torture, where a population is sharing in this, and they are all together engaged in what is a system of voyeurism, keeping me under surveillance together and obsessively observing me and stalking me to see what my reactions are, and I'm prosecuting them. So the entity is not going to be prosecuted for obstruction of justice for the ongoing impunity with which it is posing an impermissible threat while gang stalking somebody that is I'm representing the federal government. I am the federal government. And I'm prosecuting the state that is continuously targeting me in violation of federal law that it is not supreme to. This is, again, the audacity, the lawlessness that's being exposed by the state. And this is mental illness of the demon possessed. So the license plate 64991S3, what these demons are actually doing are engaging in surveillance in the parking lot. And with simultaneity to my walking around the corner, these demons with this license plate start the ignition on the vehicle. That's audible activity creation. And I'm also capturing images of the fake sun that you can clearly see in a distinct different location, not over Tracy Banks's apartment as I'm at the front door. It's now over the same corner where it's at 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, actually, while it's over apartment 41, while I'm at that corner, turning the corner. That's where the entity is having the fake sun at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And I'm capturing it as I'm walking out at 12. I'm capturing this image at 12:31 p.m. of the fake sun as I walk around the corner. Yeah, at 12:31 p.m. because I am moving in real time. But you're understanding also the entity has a whole fake sun over me in Los Angeles as I'm at my office on video at 11:59 a.m. until approximately 12:15, 12:16. And then I'm on video at 12:18 walking to my apartment, and the fake sun is remaining over the top of my head. And that is engineer light that is covering all over the property. Not only are the two not happening in Los Angeles at Alvarado and also in Ontario, California at Woodside Senior Apartments, but you're also understanding what is that movement in real time. As I walk from my office to my apartment at Alvarado Gardens, the fake sun is moving as I move. As I walk from Tracy Banks's apartment to the parking lot to get the license plates of these demons, these sex offenders, they're predators. They're keeping me under surveillance while doing so in the convenience of their vehicles in order to, they're aware of what I'm doing, and they create activity by coming out of their vehicles. This is what this third party license plate 7WFG491 is committing. This appears to be a Latino male, an aged Latino male driving a Scion, a dark blue Scion or a black Scion. He is in operation of his device. I capture him in the video. The reality of what these demons are doing is they are always in a position to create activity by the malicious acts of public corruption, where the entity is seeking to appear as though they're engaging in what is ordinary conduct, minding their business, appearing disinterested, appearing disconnected, not communicating with the target individual, while they are in every regard, which you are also aware through the unnatural environment, targeting that person. Now they're targeting the person that's prosecuting them. So now you're talking about a whole other escalation of a federal prosecution. And it's also exposing the mental illness of the entity that is targeting. The population that's remaining as a matter of employment, Linda Reyes is being prosecuted and she's going to prison for even longer for this documentation. Okay, she is a criminal facilitator by virtue of employment. This is intolerable facilitation, where a property is the grounds where the population is sharing in the ongoing obsessive stalking and psychological torture, including by gang stalking conspicuously in the video evidence. All right. And so I want to be clear. This third party license 7WFG491, they're engaged in psychological torture and terrorism with the intent to obstruct justice. And that's what they're going to be prosecuted for. While I'm documenting them and I'm capturing screenshots of them, of the fake sun over me at the same time, while they are under the fake sun over me in Ontario, they are being prosecuted. And so is Woodside Senior Apartments, who was gang stalking me as a property, the facilitating venue, in other words, where they are sharing and acting with the population that is sharing in that cooperative effort to gang stalk together in that specific environment. While I'm capturing those screenshots, amplified booming is happening inside of the apartment. This third party is going to be prosecuted for that. 7WFG 491. If this is not a natural born citizen, no matter how many decades they may have been in this country, no matter if they own their own business, no matter if they've had children in this country, they're going to be deported. Okay? No matter their status, there's no position where you're going to remain in this country. You served in the military. Well, you're no longer some sort of patriotic member of this society anymore because you're gang stalking. And terrorism is the absolute revocation of the privilege to be in this country. And there is nothing that is going to supersede federal group stalking and monitoring. If this is not a natural born citizen, they are going to be deported. They are engaging in the criminal obstruction of justice. While I'm documenting them, the entity is terrorizing me and psychologically targeting me with the amplified booming that's happening inside of the apartment. And that is relevant to what you will see, the screenshots of him, and you will see the images of the fake sun over me in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens on this day at the same time in 2024. I'm being targeted, and he is threatening my life and safety and overall well-being while I am documenting him while he was targeting me also on video. And this is a psychopath and a sex offender that then goes about the rest of his life and his business, which is what the state of California practices as an entirely corrupt society, gang stalking as a way of life, as a way of conducting business, and as a way of the way that the corrupt government operates as well. This is a predator that's keeping a woman under surveillance, a sex offender that's also monitoring my private activity in the private space while I'm indisposed, and monitoring my genitalia and whatnot, and engaging in the psychopathic conduct. Psychopaths engaging in surveillance and waiting until the perfect time to make their delivery, to cross path and create light activity while they are being documented. That's impunity. It's not innocence. It's impunity in plain view. And this is what the government itself is also practicing as well. The entity is flying over the top of my head while the entity is under that fake sun, and the entity is engaging in that ongoing pattern of conduct. Paul Leon is being prosecuted for federal group stalking, monitoring while I am documenting him as a corrupt terrorist leader. Psychological torture while you're documenting and exposing the government actors. Those government actors are a threat to your life. Those are the same ones that are interested in deriving a benefit from your murder. And also, while they seek to steal from you, Paul Leon is engaging in psychological torture while I am documenting him in the city of Ontario that is using all of its planes and helicopters to terrorize me, and the elderly who are unemployed stalking at this venue, who are also going to federal prison and mental asylums, are also exhibiting their mental illness while amplified noises are simultaneously occurring while I document and even mention the terrorist leaders in the city of Ontario, including Paul Leon and the gang stalkers, the demon possessed who murder people through plane crashes, who commit terrorist attacks with planes and helicopters. That's what they're doing while they're gang stalking me. They're the same population that are gang stalking, and they commit terrorist attacks. They're not accidents. These are the mentally ill that are also psychologically torturing me while I'm documenting them, and I reference them and the simultaneity of amplified noise under the fake sun and engineer light while it's remaining over me at the same time on this same day in 2024 in Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles. That's the prosecution of public officials like the city of Ontario, like the to be disbanded Ontario Police Department. They are being prosecuted. Corey Watson's going to federal prison. This is exactly what he was engaging in when he committed a kidnapping and exercised fictitious authority. The absurdity of their criminal conduct is going to be used against them, and Corey Watson is still gang stalking to date. He is engaging in psychological torture while I'm publishing his criminal acts on the internet, and I am subject to psychological torture via impossible light activity that's going toward his mental illness, that's going toward his impunity, that's going toward the disbanding of that entire police department, and he and everyone else is permanently done with law enforcement. Understand how all of these facts of the demon-possessed entity is going to work against them, while psychopaths that are engaging in surveillance, sitting around stalking a woman. These are the same personality character traits of those who rape women and men. Those are the same personality traits of those who commit sex trafficking, of those who engage in what is molesting and violating children. They are gang stalking me while I am documenting them, waiting for the opportune time to engage in conspicuous stalking on video, the most foolish thing that you can do in federal court. This is what the government is doing. And amplified audible activity is ongoing while I'm capturing screenshots, while I'm capturing this podcast, and while I was capturing video. All right. Linda Reyes is going to federal prison. It's her impunity. Corey Watson's going to federal prison. It's his impunity. Paul Leon is being federally prosecuted. Let me be clear. Karen Bass is being federally prosecuted for gang stalking. These mayors are a part of the pattern of conduct. The city of Ontario, the city of Los Angeles, access itself is associated with the office of Karen Bass. And the more that I document and the more that I reference access transportation services, the more that they committed the offense of federal group stalking and monitoring in order to psychologically torture, terrorize, and harass me. While that demon, Karen Bass, and her office and the city of Ontario, the entity itself, knew that I was documenting. This is the character flaws, the lack of self-control, but you document because you are able to recall that evidence, and you're also looking at the evidence in the absence of any coincidences. All right, the entity is prosecuting itself, and there are those who are sitting in office who will not be remaining in office. And it's not because Karen Bass was not able to appropriately handle the manufactured emergencies of the fires in Los Angeles County. It's going to be also because of the fact that she's a gang stalking mayor, and that's an oxymoron. And such terrorist leaders, such domestic terrorists, such enemies of the state are going to be removed from office. She is not the only gang stalking mayor in California. All right. She is not the only hostile, demon-possessed, and mentally ill psychopath who was hostile to my identifying her condition and her tendency to engage in criminal activity. That's exactly what Paul Leon's condition and criminal conduct consists of as well. All right. And this is while a bunch of people over 55 who don't have a job, whose terrorism is being funded by the state while they're keeping me under surveillance and the government's flying over the top of my head in planes that the city of Ontario is very much aware of and provides for purposes of what is ongoing harassment of the federal prosecutor. It's to the demise of this corrupt government. My job is to prosecute and expose them. They keep showing their hand. And while they do so, I'm also going to prosecute them for their mental illnesses that they exhibit through gang stalking me. Their mental illnesses be exhibited, and the gross level of impunity and malice by seeking to use and misuse and exercise fictitious authority under the law while seeking to falsely depict my character while these mentally ill psychopaths were targeting me for years, and I've been documenting it in order to prosecute and expose it. They will be going to prison. They will be removed from public office. They will be removed as a matter of what is public information. You don't get to get away and be removed from office and quietly disappear. It's going to be a matter of public information why you are being removed from office, why it is necessary with regard to the Constitution, the state and federal Constitution, that you not remain in office, because you are not distinct and separate from what's going on in the city, that you are part of that same community. Not only that, you are responsible for what that community is engaging in and for what your office is engaging in, for what the government in that city that you are a leader over is engaging in. You are actually and reasonably responsible for it. They are actually responsible for it, though. And the evidence of the P.O.C. shows up. The entire state of California is a gang-stalking, demon-possessed entity, a corrupt one. This is public corruption that is showing roots in Satanism. This entire witch coven and their witchcraft practices has now caused them to sacrifice everything in their failed sacrifice of myself, Erica Lorraine Spencer. It's currently, again, 1:08 p.m., and the entity is engaging in what is ongoing psychological torture, which AVANATH Capital Management is going to compensate for. AVANATH Capital Management is not going to remain as a landlord, as a property management company. They're a domestic enemy. They profit off of domestic terrorism in California. They are psychologically targeting, in furtherance of committing murder and stealing from occupants at its properties. They do so with the population that is welcome on its grounds to gang stalk its occupants. And as a resident at Alvarado Gardens, this is what AVANATH Capital Management is engaged in. My status is merely for illustrative purposes to show you what the targeted individual is subject to, whether you're employed, whether you're unemployed, whether you're homeless, and that homelessness is directly caused by the entity that is targeting you. As you're aware, at Alvarado Gardens, while I'm on the job, gainfully employed, the entity is gang stalking. That's a threat to your life and your ability to work. They're criminally interfering with your liberty right. That has nothing to do with being gravely disabled under the Welfare and Institutions Code. And this is speaking to the necessity, the constitutional requirement that these laws change, because gang stalkers like the state of California are deliberately crafting legislation in order to commit what is literally theft through public corruption. Defamation via this system of public corruption, gang stalking. It has nothing to do with the mental illness of that targeted individual. And the American citizens in this country need to recognize that you are not, in fact, suffering from some mental illness because a so-called professional is telling you that, and you need to stop accepting those curses onto yourself. There's a whole pattern of conduct behind what the government is deliberately calling mental illness and mental health. There's a whole system that is derived to target American citizens, and where the average person is accepting these false notions to condition your mind, it is serving for a framework to target another. And I want to be clear, it's a threat to everybody, even the demon-possessed gang stalkers who at any moment are capable of being subject to that same system. But they don't think about that. They don't think about that, and that's not fine. I'm not here to advocate on behalf of a bunch of demons that are going to prison at Woodside City Apartments. But they are also subject to and at a threat of being subject to the same system. A threat is posed to their lives as well and their liberty rights as well. Because at any moment when the demons want to turn on them and target them, this is the exact same P.O.C. that they are subject to and can be subject to. This is the government that is engaging in what is a massive system of public corruption throughout the state of California. And while I'm documenting that, I want to be clear. These demons with license plates 7WFG491 is going to be prosecuted for psychological torture, obstruction of justice, while engaging in the exhibiting mental illness, keeping me under surveillance, and waiting for the perfect time. While they're in that video that I captured, this is what the population is always doing. This is what they're doing when they're walking outside of their apartments. The demon in unit number 43, the demon in unit number 47 with the ears, the demons in unit number 41 with the kids, the demon in unit number 55, gang stalking by pacing and like she's creating bombs and creating potholes in the sidewalk when she's walking outside. No, she's not. She's a demon-possessed psychopath. She's going to a mental asylum. This is what the demon in unit 51 does. Tracy Banks, she walks outside of her bedroom into the kitchen, deliberately monitoring. While I am in use of my communication device, their mental illness is on full display. While they are not under any sort of cover, they are showing the way that their system operates, and they're also showing their ongoing obsessive endeavor. The mystery is gone. The disguise, the mask is gone. The whole criminal purpose is gone. Your demon possession is no longer a secret either. And you're going to be placed in the appropriate facilities, and you're going to be removed from the positions that you currently hold. You're going to be wiped out altogether as a company, as a department. You fill in the blank. It's going to be a comprehensive prosecution. Okay, the entity is doing so again while I am documenting, and the third parties that are engaged in obstruction of justice, targeting me, seeking to obstruct justice while I document them. And I'm subject to psychological harms, 7WFG491, and also the demon gang stalking, engaging in surveillance in the parking lot, 64991S3. Sex offenders that are keeping a woman under surveillance inside of a private space. Predators that are sitting around masturbating while they're monitoring my genitalia, and they're engaged in things like surveillance in the parking lot, aware of what I'm doing at all times, including when they are specifically creating activity amongst the impossible light and under a fake sun, where the government's flying over my head in planes, flying through that fake sun. That's what you'll see in that video that I captured. They're flying through the fake sun. All right. That is not the natural environment, where it could not possibly be over me at 1806 North Alvarado Street, apartment number 1 through 6, because I'm standing in front of my apartment building at the same time in Los Angeles on this day in 2024. This is the pattern of conduct. The absurdity of this specific environment is speaking to the mental illness of the demon-possessed. This is the whole system that they target American citizens with, okay? It is currently 1:13 p.m. AVANATH Capital Management is going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted for the ongoing chorus of amplified noise. It's criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, because a bunch of demons are hostile while their hand is being shown repeatedly. And this is no small thing. They're going to prison for it as well. But I'm going to be compensated for that which you cannot quantify. Psychological torture, a program of it, while you're gang stalking an occupant and stalking in violation of the HUD rules that you are to be bound by and your residents are to be bound by as a property management company and residents. They're going to be prosecuted. All right. The entity is engaged in psychological torture pursuant to technical abuse, while my devices are kept under surveillance as well. I'm referencing 34 U.S.C. 12291, while the entity is engaged in what is the stalking in violation of the Violence Against Women Act at this HUD-regulated property. The impossible light that you'll see in the images, as you pay attention from one image to the next, that engineer light's traveling across the door. It's traveling across the patio glass door. It's traveling, as you see it, coming through the living room wall on the floor toward the west portion of the living room as I open the front door at 9:53 in the morning, and toward what is the east side. The fake sun is directly over the same apartment building, and making an incremental migration from the east side to the west side of the same apartment building, and also then rapidly moving as I move to go around the corner to capture these third-party license plates of sex offenders, males that are keeping me under surveillance. These are predators that are gang stalking on behalf of the government. It's the government's pattern of conduct that they're engaging in, and they are going to be prosecuted for it individually as they act as an entity. Understand that. Not only that, though, the fake sun is appearing. Now it is appearing as I open the front door. It's swiping north into the apartment. And you'll see that in the images as it creates the pattern of the metal mesh door in the morning toward the west inside of the living room, and as I open the front door, and again as I open the front door at around 12:31 p.m. capturing images, 12:29 p.m. capturing images, that engineer light is appearing inside of the same living room, speaking to non-movement of what is a necessarily fake sun. A whole stage is what the entity is standing on, while they have a poor performance of what is supposed to be normal life. They're all stalking together, and that engineer light is directly narrating that. It's direct evidence of it, and it's the prosecution of a lot of people and companies. All right, and the entity is going to prison at Woodside Senior Apartments for it. It's 1:15 p.m. and this is all going to be published to the Google Drive. Okay, you'll see the screenshots comparing, juxtaposing what is the idle light source that's remaining over me on this day in 2024 at the same time, because at 11:59 a.m. and at 12:18 p.m. the fake sun is over me at Alvarado Gardens, and it remains over me until the end of the day. And that's exactly what's happening, which you already know, because you just saw the fake sun setting just the other day. And so the sunset the other day is speaking to what is under all circumstances the specific environment and not the natural environment, and speaking to the idle presence of a sun that could never be in Florida, where you're stalking. That's where you're understanding where stalking is. And the demon possessed are engaging in that malicious guise of what's supposed to appear as everyday normal life. It's public corruption. All right. It is currently, again, 1:16 p.m. This is P.O.C. Saturday, March 15, 2025. It's currently 4:06 p.m. as you can see. This is a documentation regarding the images showing the idle, remaining, enduring of presence of the fake sun, which is a scientific phenomenon that I continuously capture, which is the ongoing evidence exposing what is the system that is in operation in the state of California. And it is a system of surveillance. It's a system of domestic terrorism, where targeted individuals are subject to a criminal system where their constitutional and human rights are being violated, and it is embedded into society. So it is something that is coexisting with what is not any lawful presence or normal activity or ignorant or accidental or coincidental or even negligent conduct. All of it is deliberately underway. Every vehicle that's on the street, every vehicle that is heard driving, sounding its horn, car alarms going off, everything with regard to every person that's engaging in anything as minute, including walking their dog out to use the bathroom and crossing path. And that is what you are aware of with regard to the specific environment that defies nature itself. And this is something that is a secret that is hidden in plain sight. Okay. So I captured that today. As you're aware, you saw the video of the fake sun directly over me at Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario, which you see at the bottom, at what was 9:53 in the morning on video. Okay, and as I stated in that video, that is exactly what is remaining at the same exact apartment at 4:01 p.m. And this is the same time in reference to Los Angeles on this day in 2024, where LAPD is exhibiting demon possession. So I'm not only prosecuting the government for engaging in what is violating my constitutional human rights, for stalking me, for keeping me under surveillance, for no legitimate purpose. It's an entirely criminal system intended to psychologically torture, for the purpose of committing murder, for the purpose of committing kidnapping by the state that exercises authority. It doesn't have actually any constitutional basis to do so, because they're stalking until they get to an intersection circumstances, in other words, where you can be subject to what is a kidnapping, what is the exercise of fictitious authority under the law, what is a violation of your constitutional rights, while on its surface it's all supposed to appear as the operation of the criminal justice system, or the operation of the same public entity that is diagnosing you for some sort of mental illness. While it has been targeting you the entire time. So this is relevant to the specific environment. And like you see at 4:01 p.m., let's just go back to what you saw this morning at 9 in the morning. And this is where the entity kept the fake sun all day long. This is at 9:54. This is the video captured at 9:42 a.m. where you are looking at the very much same exact apartment. I'm inside of the same unit, the same location, the same address, and this is the same building where that fake sun is over me, in alignment to me, in conformity to a documented pattern of conduct, not just of the specific environment, but of the government targeting me, harassing and terrorizing me, both directly and vicariously. That is, the vicarious state action is the very population itself that shares the same condition. This is demonic activity that is of a criminal nature for purposes of prosecution that it is not impervious to in a federal tribunal, okay? And it is shown through what is proven through the video evidence of what is an environment that is entirely engineered. And this engineered environment is existing in plain sight, and it is literally a scientific phenomenon. It is speaking to what is an entirely malicious government system targeting American citizens in ways that they ordinarily don't have the evidence or proof or even the intellectual capacity, perhaps, to explain. And I want to be clear, anyone that you would report it to is poised to defame you and falsely depict your character as being one that is the cause for the criminal conduct that you are subject to, and for the series of unfortunate occurrences in your life affecting every aspect of your life, which is under no circumstances the product of mental illness by that targeted person who is subject to a very real targeted system in California, nor is it the product of any wrongdoing by that targeted individual. It is a means where Satan himself, who is operating through a corrupt government and through a corrupt society, this is a demon-possessed society. There are, in other words, the demon-possessed are living in California, and there's a whole business that is the operation of what is the so-called secret society, what is the operation of the government that is engaged in public corruption with that population, and it is the operation of the so-called secret society, where they're targeting American citizens, and they know exactly who you are. You're not being stalked by strangers. You're being stalked by civilization, by a population who knows exactly who you are, where you are, and everything that you're doing. And as I am prosecuting, they know that they are being exposed at the same time. So now the whole world is not only witnessing the demon possessed being exposed for the depravity that they are living in, but also the criminal conduct that they are accustomed to as an entire operation by the government, not just a bunch of cult members that live in the neighborhood or even through the state. It's the government itself. That's where the criminal system is beginning. That's its place of origin. This is all unconstitutional, and none of it is private activity. None of it is constitutionally protected, and none of it is authorized under the Constitution, state or federal. Okay? And that's relevant to this specific environment. This specific environment is it is a scientific phenomenon, and it is also coexisting with documentation that I captured 365 days ago, and even at the same time. So while you see the fake sun this morning at 9:42, it's reflecting off of the vehicle in the same parking lot that I'm facing at 4:01 p.m. Remember that. The reflection of the fake sun, and then you have the fake sun itself over that same sky space hours later. And this fake sun was nowhere in any position to appear reflecting in this manner, nor is it the natural environment that you have what is 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, over 7 hours later that the fake sun is now on the same side of the parking lot where this vehicle is parked. That's speaking to a specific environment, okay, that is engineered for the gang stalking purposes of a demon-possessed population who is maliciously targeting one specific person, and they are all acting as though nothing is happening. And it is not happening within only the mind of that targeted individual, and this is the evidence proving that. And it is also speaking to the mental illness of that entity that are of the same condition. This is demonic. It's wicked and it's evil. It's criminal. It is demonic. Okay, and that's what's relevant with LAPD gang stalking me under an enduring fake sun, because on this day in 2024, I documented the fake sun through my living room window in the morning. I started my day during the 7 a.m., 8 a.m. hour, and the entity has the fake sun over my apartment through my living room window, and that is not going to be over the same units 33 through 48. That's not over this building. This is not over the Ovid Family Community Library. This is not over the Ontario Town Square. It is right over this apartment building where engineered light is being aimed into the apartment as I open the front door, which you can see in the video. So let me go ahead and which you can see through the video. But again, that's not speaking to sunlight. That's the product of that fake sun. But you are using the illusion of the demon possessed to prosecute them, because the sun being over the apartment is not going to create light sprawling into the depths on the inside. But I already documented this earlier. We're speaking to the enduring presence of this fake sun at 4:01 p.m. while I am showing you it's reflecting off of the vehicle parked in this parking lot. As you see it through this patio glass door at 4:01 p.m. This is the same apartment building, units 33 through 48. This is the same parking lot where in the morning the fake sun was reflecting off of this SUV, the driver's side, and here it is over in the same manner. The entity, and you're understanding the demonic nature. You're understanding the demonic nature of this pattern of conduct. So while you're looking at this fake sun at 4 p.m., this is what you need to recall regarding what the Los Angeles Police Department were engaging in, while I am also notably in the workplace. So it's always legally relevant where I am subject to the pattern of conduct. Whether it's in an apartment, which is a private space, whether I'm on the job, which is in the workplace. And federal group stalking and monitoring was underway by the government in the specific environment where demon possession is exhibited by those who are stalking in the path, including Rita Vega, Tiffany Cherez, and the Caretos, who are gang stalking in the parking lot, while the fake sun is over the same apartment building in Los Angeles at 1810 North Alvarado Street, which is exactly where it was earlier in the workday during the 8 a.m., 9 a.m. hour in the video that I already showed you, which is free for you to view on YouTube, in order for you to witness the impossible. Amongst the impossible, the government is gang stalking.
Alrighty, it is currently 4:01 p.m. and you've already seen the documentation that shows the maintenance of a light source. I've shown it here, and I've reiterated many times how the entity keeps the light source 8 o'clock to 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon. The light source is still here, and I took pictures inside of my my bedroom. The entity is aiming impossible light in the same manner that it does every afternoon, and through my closed blinds. And I want to be clear, this is the reason why I still want to document, is because the entity is engaging in what is real-time knowledge of the exposure of what is a demonic environment where the people of the state are group stalking and monitoring. Okay, those are the Caretos accessing what's not even their vehicle for purposes of maintenance in the path, and pay attention to the vehicle. They're combining this group conduct, light in the path, and while they're just pacing around a vehicle. Understand this is the elements of monitoring. But I want to be clear, the light source is right here, and you've already seen that. And this is in anticipation of me capturing a video at specifically 4:01 p.m. The entity is looking at the documentation where I'm at Ontario Town Square at 4:01 p.m. and you are looking at the light source, which you are looking at here every single day. And matter of fact, I'll go ahead and publish what I've already captured here at Alvarado Gardens, the ongoing impossibility. The entity is engaging in what is the demonic behavioral pattern. This is exposing not only what's criminal in operation by a state in concert with the people, this is still malice and impunity, and they're monitoring. And understand, Rita Vega, do you see how she's going backwards and forwards? Do you notice how everybody has issues parking when they're in the parking lot? They're monitoring, and they're demons. Okay, and these are psychopaths that are focused on me while they're in relevant position. They're doing so under the light source, which remains at the venue as well. So the entity is maintaining the light source, as I've already shown you, and the entity is, as you already saw, actually even at 5 p.m. through my bedroom window. Okay, this has already been captured. The entity, the demon-possessed one, is aware of the fact that they are being documented, and this is how pathetic this entity is. You're dealing with the demonic, which is very real. The demonic is very real, and these are the demon possessed that are engaging in what is a feckless effort, okay? Talking about already having been defeated, already having been exposed, already having been engaged in that which has been fully documented, and this is the same conduct. That's Tiffany Cherez, that's 1804 number 2, Marlena Davila. You have what is the Caretos, group stalking with LAPD, light source. So I want to be clear, while the entity is covering up its light source, while a demon is group stalking using a method of light, which is their vehicle, pacing in the parking spot, the same exact elements are present, while the light source also remains present, which you already know as a matter of record. Okay, at 5 p.m., while I'm inside of my restroom, inside of my bedroom, the entity is maintaining the light source over this building, as though the sun is setting over me. You remember that I just captured that yesterday? And the entity is engaging in what is magnifying the size of my window, along my bedroom wall, while you see the trees that are seen through the magnified size of the light that's piercing through my closed blinds. That was after 5 p.m. So this is speaking to, again, what I have already captured. The entity is engaged in that which is already exposed. So while the entity engaged in group stalking me for weeks on end, and I captured video after image after image, and documented group stalker by group stalker, company after, I documented it for a prolonged period of time, not because the evidence doesn't already exist, not because the prosecution isn't already complete, all right? Not because there's anything else that there is left to expose, but because I wanted to give you a vivid illustration, frame by frame, with regard to what has already been established. Not only is this a criminal system of federal group stalking and monitoring, not only are these the demon possessed who literally engaged in an ongoing iteration of it in anticipation of the fact that I was coming out at 4:01 p.m. in order to capture video of what is the light source that you already know remains over my office in alignment to me, while they are engaged in on-stalking via helicopter. All right, the entity is engaging in. Oh, yeah, I want to make sure that you can see that. Can you see the entity group stalking by helicopter? That's LAPD. The entity is engaged in the ongoing effort to conceal that which is not concealed. Okay, and by the way, this is the light source right here. It's luminescent, under the guise of what's supposed to be a cloudy day. So I want to reveal to you, again, in the same way that I'm showing you what is the maintenance of a light source for an excess of 11 hours, 10 to 11 hours in alignment to me all day long, which is to the exclusion of the state of Florida. It's to the exclusion of any location in the Inland Empire, including the Ontario town square, including San Francisco, Sacramento, San Diego. You can pick a county, including to the exclusion of anywhere in downtown Los Angeles. Let me be clear. The sun is vivid. It's clearly over me, over the property. However, you will go to different locations. You will look up in the sky over you, wherever you're at, and you'll see the sun. That's what you would refer to it as. And this is what you assume, that it's a natural environment. That's impossible that will be the case, though. So in the same way that you have witnessed the phenomenon that I capture day in and day out, it is also, this is the same phenomenon, because I am exposing to you what is very real. This is the demonic. And they literally have engaged in before, and they engaged in it now. And it's not disproving anything I've already established, the pattern of conduct. You've already seen video of what is the maintenance of a light source, giving for purposes of a vivid illustration of seeing that light source, which, let me be clear, the entity is group stalking on a daily basis. I will capture video at 4:01 p.m. tomorrow, okay? They've already lost. It's already been exposed. The entity is engaging in what is ongoing real. This is what this is relevant to. And this is why Rita Vega is going to federal prison. This is why Tiffany Cherez is losing custody of her children. This is why the Caretos are going to be deported out of this country. While the entity is engaging in what is a pattern of conduct that is fully exposed with real-time knowledge of everything that I'm doing as I do it. It is beyond a coincidence, again, that the Los Angeles Police Department are captured in the specific environment. While I am capturing what is the phenomenon that the sun is ever going to remain over a property, we'll just say a property, the property that I happen to be at. I happen to catch this phenomenon every single day, okay, for a series of years. And you have also what is beyond a coincidence that they are in relevant position where, understand, it's a cloudy day, right? I put that in cloudy day because this is the demonic. This is, in other words, the demon possessed that are acting to conceal that which they can't conceal. I've already fully exposed it. There are years of documentation. Okay, so like I said, the entity is consistently behind, following, looking at what I do. They are not ahead of me whatsoever. They are literally following and cannot catch up to what it is that I've already exposed and what I'm doing. But I want to be clear, this is a feckless effort in order to do so, and it's not a coincidence that what you saw them doing right now, this was a group of demons in relevant position, in close proximity to me, and under what is the covered cloud, they're supplementing for the light activity and activity creation. Understand what that was. okay? And they were demons engaging in that. This demon driving the Telluride 98XL380, they're going to federal prison, group stalking and criminal facilitation. That's the impermissible threat. They're aware that they're being documented in addition to group stalking with a corrupt law enforcement agency, and they were out engaging in what is threatening you. That monitoring you is threatening your life. Okay, because that's the government, and they're acting on behalf of the government. And they know it, so the entity covers up the light source. And these demons come in close proximity, engage in the pattern of conduct. Walking around the vehicle, it's light activity. Remember, it's present at all times, day and night. All right, the entity is creating light activity using this vehicle. It's not a coincidence that it's right here, okay? And nobody knows how to park when they're in the parking lot. They pull in, then they back out, then they pull in, then they back. These are demons. Nobody seems to know how to drive in relevant position, okay? That was an iteration of the P.O.C. Then you see LAPD flying over, and they do so at what is 4:01 p.m. because they know that I'm capturing more pivotal video. I already have it.
All right, the significance of the pulling in and reversing repeatedly, that's referred to as pacing. So that's the significance, and that's what I'm getting to. First of all, it's in the specific environment, so it is serving a purpose, and it's not an inability to drive or get into the parking spaces. It's the tactic, it's the strategy for pacing. And while I'm capturing the evidence of the state in the same way that the entity is gang stalking and doing so in concert as a community in Ontario, like they were in Los Angeles, under what is an enduring fake sun in concert with the Los Angeles Police Department. The entity that is going to federal prison includes the demons in units 49 through 64 who are stalking with amplified noise. And so this is what I am always reminding you about. The entity that is gang stalking is subject to federal prison by engaging in the pattern of conduct via residence. All right, so that's the significance of that, and I want you to recall this is the entity that is engaging in that. They are gang stalking by residents. All of them that are in units 33 through 64 are gang stalking with the government. This is exactly what Los Angeles Police Department engaged in. That was the government stalking me, engaging in the satanic targeting system, and it is evidenced through the enduring presence of a fake sun. As you can see in the images that I capture, it's remaining while these residents are stalking a path in the path amongst the amplified noise, which is also a means of what is psychological torture while I document them. So they are the defendant is continuously engaging in what is the criminal monitoring pattern of conduct and obstruction of justice while engaging in federal stalking on the venue of the internet, while stalking in violation of the Violence Against Women Act at this HUD regulated property, and also doing so with the unlawful intent to seek to obstruct justice. Everybody in units 33 through 64 are indeed going to federal prison. They are doing so pursuant to a well-documented pattern of conduct. They are doing so while they are aware of the fact that they are being documented under an enduring fake sun which defies science. Okay, it defies the explanation that science has given us. This requires more than one sun while you're looking at it remaining over, again, one building from 9 a.m. That's what you saw this morning, 9:52 a.m., 9:53, and what is after 4 p.m. right now. And on the inside of the apartment, the entity is maintaining enduring illuminating light, which is not sunlight either. This is monitoring while amplified booming is being heard inside of the apartment to harass and terrorize me because I'm reporting all of them to the feds, and they're all going to prison as well. Okay, the entity is keeping the fake sun, that which is over Alvarado Gardens, covered up by the clouds where LAPD is gang stalking. The entity is also doing so while you are aware at 5 p.m. at Alvarado Gardens, the fake sun is reflecting off of my bedroom window at building 1806 North Alvarado Street. The entity is keeping the fake sun through my bedroom window as I'm inside of my apartment after 5 p.m. and capturing that fake sun where it's also setting. This is where the entity is engaging what is the enduring presence of that light source. And this is what LAPD is practicing as a government system, which is also the system that LAPD is sharing with the Ontario Police Department. They are all going to federal prison. Linda Reyes was working at the crime scene. You're going to federal prison for that. The entity is keeping the fake sun on this side of the building where it was reflecting off of a vehicle on this side of the building during the 9 a.m. hour. There is no iteration of the natural environment that's going to create any sort of illuminescence of light that's appearing on the floor and then causing my shadow on the living room wall. That's called stalking with light. It's also not beaming from the sky space over building 1810 in Los Angeles, and then creating any sunlight on the depths of the apartment in Ontario where the fake sun is outside of the same front door at 9 o'clock in the morning as well, nor is it creating any sunlight on the ceiling. This is my shadow that's above my head. This is all scientific phenomenon. This is all a scientific phenomenon where the stalking with light conduct pursuant to what is psychological torture while the ongoing criminal interference with quiet enjoyment is what characterizes the unlawful gang stalking by AVANATH Capital Management and its residents who are going to federal prison. including AVANATH's employees. And that's the significance of LAPD gang stalking under that fake sun that remains at that venue in Los Angeles on this day in 2024 at the same time. This is P.O.C. It is currently 4:28 p.m. It is currently 6:15 p.m. The images you'll see uploaded to the Google Drive show the maintenance of what is the fake sun, which is not the explanation regarding the engineered light that fills Tracy Banks' apartment in Ontario, California at 408 West G Street in Ontario, California. The entity is gang stalking. That's the significance of what is the enduring fake sun, which I captured on video after taking the pictures of the fake sun through this. I'm at the same 600 square foot apartment. So the entity kept the fake sun as a matter of video and images from 9:42 in the morning in a 600 square foot apartment that does not move. The apartment remains stationary, and that requires that the fake sun and not the natural environment where the sun is in constant movement, not remaining over one location and to the disregarding every other place in the country where you're just keeping it based on the sun that is at some point in the day going to be over people in Las Vegas, Nevada, even if you want to stay on the West Coast. How is the sun over anyone in Las Vegas, Nevada when I've shown it through the window and the front door of the 600 square foot apartment at 408 West G Street in Ontario? It is remaining for over 8 hours from 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it is currently 6:17 p.m. and the entity is keeping engineered light, and the engineered light is on the ceiling. It is in the crevice of the ceiling across what would be the west side of the apartment along the same side where the patio glass door is. If you look at those pictures, the engineered light, the orange light, is like coloring the crevice of the ceiling and the wall all the way over to the bedroom where the hallway door is, and it is draping down onto that wall. It's like water leaking down, but it's light from the ceiling down into the crevice of the corner along the bedroom side, and then onto the above the patio glass door into the living room side along the ceiling. And the engineered light is coating the patio glass door, and the same stationary engineered light that you saw in pictures this morning while the fake sun was on over the same exact apartment building over me in a 600 square foot apartment, which is speaking to non-movement of the sun, because I cannot see in the sky space in Las Vegas if the sun is over them anywhere. That could not be the natural environment, because I documented one sun that remained over one apartment or that within 600 square feet over 8 hours, and it didn't go anywhere. And the apartment stayed filled with illuminating light that created my shadow on the ceiling above me, on the ceiling, on the walls inside, and also illuminated the ceiling and all the walls on all the walls inside of the apartment, which I document on an ongoing basis. This is where the demons are maintaining ongoing amplified noise, and this is what, again, AVANATH Capital Management, this is a commercial means of gang stalking. They are going to be prosecuted for the inhumanity of psychologically torturing occupants that are remaining on the property, and this is the criminal activity of the government that is acting in concert with the people of the state, which AVANATH Capital Management is. They happen to be the people of the state who are commercially profiting from criminal activity that its own residents and employees are participating in and facilitating on a ceaseless basis as that state system is underway. And at 6:15 p.m., amplified booming that's so loud that it's heard through the headphones that I'm wearing and listening to content to. And that is the entity that is more mentally ill than conscious with regard to prosecution and consequences, and people like Daryl J. Carter, companies like AVANATH Capital Management, people like Linda Reyes, people like Tracy Banks, people like, for example, Mike Lorenz and Paul Leon, and even Corey Watson, Hadel Shiapani, who are going to be prosecuted in federal court, just to name a few. When the entity is engaging in this program of psychological torture with impossible light and an idle fake sun that, as a matter of evidence and science, could not have possibly gone anywhere else in the world, but yet you are witnessing what is a pattern of conduct while I am on the same day reminding you about what is over me and my head on the same day, even at the same time in Los Angeles, from the beginning until the end of the day, where the entity is gang stalking me also in helicopter, which is the pattern of conduct by the demons in Ontario, which is why I'm subject to what is terrorism via impossible light activity, terrorism in a specific environment where a sun remains idle over me, aimed at me all day long, and also psychological torture, stalking via amplified noise, which is a criminal interference with quiet enjoyment that the AVANATH Capital Management, this commercial means of gang stalking, this third-party company that is profiting off of acting in furtherance of the state's conspiracy to murder and kidnap me and falsely depict my character and trying to steal my property before killing me off. AVANATH Capital Management is doing so while its co-defendants that are relying on that are remaining in the units and are gang stalking and simultaneously being prosecuted for domestic terrorism. Not stealing candy bars, they're all being prosecuted for domestic terrorism and conspiring to murder one person together by gang stalking her and continuously doing so while she exposes them and reports every single last one of them to the federal government, who is going to know exactly where they are, exactly what they do and how they do it, while they continuously did so, even at the point of knowledge that their conspiracy to murder and kidnap an American citizen with the government, a part of a whole state operation, was no longer a secret, and they continued with that knowledge and in fact did more of it while their terrorizing pattern of conduct was exposed. That is what is putting demons like the entity that is remaining, like Linda Reyes, and as an employee of gang stalking, and like the demons that are remaining by residents at the venue, they're all going to prison. All of them. Okay, so 6:15 p.m. amplified booming is heard, loud means of audible activity amongst that engineered light. And the entity is doing so while I am, minding my business. The very damning indictment that is, again, reconfirmed on a day-to-day basis because of the evidence that the entity is keeping under surveillance, and also the evidence that's already published about them. And so the mentally ill sit around engaging more psychological torture just out of what is hostility. And that's what's occurring also by impossible light activity at 6:22 p.m. when they listen to me articulate very clearly the ways in which they're going to be prosecuted as a whole entity. The Ontario Police Department, and I'm going to go through the names, the ones that were in kidnapping on June 22nd, while the fake son remained over units 33 through 48, who are all going to federal prison. They were gang stalking in the same manner at the Ovid Family Community Library under a fake son, which is the prosecution for federal group stalking and monitoring kidnapping, not a lawful arrest pursuant to the execution of any police officer under the constitutions. And that's why those officers whose names I'm going to remind you about, who are being documented while the entity is engaging in this ongoing system of psychological torture and stalking as a residential neighborhood on behalf of this same corrupt government, who flew over my head under the fake sun on video, who was gang stalking by the population in video, who was gang stalking on an ongoing basis inside of the apartment via podcast as I recited in real time. 6:22 p.m. engineered light swiping across the ceiling. This is Tracy Banks' apartment. She's the one that's going to a mental asylum for the rest of her life. This is why she engaged in the ongoing conspiracy with the state. This apartment complex full of defendants who are all being prosecuted. This is the apartment where that ongoing program of psychological torture is underway. And these are the demons who are going to federal prison for it and mental asylums for it. The family of demons in Unit 41 are stalking me while impossible light sweeps east and west across the ceiling while they are monitoring this evidence in real time. They're all going to mental asylums. And those two minor children that you see gang stalking regularly, they're going to be taken from the custody of the people of the state whose mental illness is severe, as I publish evidence of it while they're gang stalking me. All right. And this is speaking to, again, the demon possessed and the mentally ill who are currently sitting in public office. They're sitting in positions of authority, and their mental illness is now public knowledge. Okay, their predatory appetites, their sexual violence, their inclination toward witchcraft and criminal activity, while wanting to appear anything other than ignoble and perverted and psychotic and obsessed with people whom they don't even know, like myself, because they're demon-possessed gang stalkers. That's why engineered light is swiping across the ceiling at 6:21 p.m. in the dark. Okay, the entity is doing so with regard to hostility toward the evidence, and the entity is also seeking to be a distraction. It's not a distraction. It is the ongoing pattern of conduct, and at 6:15 p.m. inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, this is the hitman and the high school graduate who sought to conspire against me as a licensed attorney, that she was going to exercise some power of attorney over me in secret with this corrupt government, steal my property, defame my character, and with the aid of the government and the corrupt population gang stalk me into mental insanity and then have me kidnapped and also ultimately take my life. The entity sought to murder me. Okay, the entity has engaged in what is attempts on my life, for which they're going to federal prison for. The Ontario police is not gang stalking because they were just going to try to get on my nerves a little bit and then leave me alone. They were gang stalking to commit murder. They're gang stalking. That's why Corey Watson's going to federal prison. He's engaged in the calculated criminal system in furtherance of murdering somebody, and he has the nerve to be wearing a police uniform. 80548, he's going to federal prison. All right. And that predator and that psychopath who is very severely mentally ill. And you know that because of the specific environment that he was gang stalking me in on June 22nd, 2022, under a fake sun and amongst impossible light activity, where psychopaths tend to engage in criminal conduct, like acting like they have authority under the law that they don't have. They also don't have it to gang stalk me while I'm inside of an apartment. That belongs to the co-defendant, Tracy Banks herself. Okay, the audacity for a high school graduate to try to conspire in this manner against myself, somebody who went to college and who went to law school, and she did not help, not with one dime. In fact, has sought to steal money that belongs to me behind my back secretly and then kill me off before I can learn about it or report it. This is somebody that did it behind my back and did it with the aid of the corrupt government. That is the city of Ontario, and is doing it with AVANATH Capital Management. Amongst amplified impossible light activity and the amplified audible activity and impossible light activity, dynamic impossible light activity, which is designed to psychologically torture and harass and terrorize, and the amplified audible activity, which is designed to psychologically torture, harass, and terrorize. This is in the specific environment that I'm showing you is occurring on the outside of the apartment as well, while the fake sun at a 600 square foot apartment, and the entity has the sun, which is a gaseous ball of fire that does not sit on roofs of buildings, that is not adjacent to vehicles and parking lots, such that it's reflecting off of the same vehicle that it is in the morning, and 8 hours later it's over that same parking lot. That is speaking to what is not a gaseous ball of fire, what is not in constant movement, but is an idle ornament in the sky and not the natural environment. This is where the demons are prosecuting themselves, as everything that I am stating and articulating is proven as a matter of evidence and is no material for defaming someone who suffers no mental illness whatsoever. While the entity is, however, continuously engaging in psychological torture tactics, demons like the ones in Unit 55 with license 5WB715, like the ones in unit number 41 with the 2 minor children, whose identity you are very well acquainted with because they've been gang stalking with them so often and for so long. They're going to mental asylums, and so is Tracy Banks, and Tracy Banks is never getting out. And the entity that is gang stalking in such manners, exhibiting their mental illness, are going to be subject to mental asylums, but they're all going to prison in units 33 through 64, where a fake son, for stalking purposes, of a demon-possessed and psychopathic population is maintaining surveillance where they live in furtherance of committing murder, while they all together masturbate and have sex rituals as a part of this witch coven that's engaging in what is monitoring my genitalia when it is indisposed and when I'm in the bathroom, engaging in what is private activity under the Constitution, which I have a right to not be subject to surveillance during that time and in that space. I'm not putting it on OnlyFans. The entity is maintaining surveillance in bathrooms. That's why sex offenders like Corey Watson are going to federal prison. And sex offenders have no business in law enforcement. And you know that Corey Watson, badge number 80549, is a sex offender because he's gang stalking. Sexual violence is synonymous with the P.O.C. It is inherent to the pattern of conduct. And there is no legitimate interest of any police department or government outside of a warrant of probable cause to keep you under surveillance where you're living on a 24-hour basis and spending millions of dollars and doing so to worship your genitalia and then to ultimately murder you and kidnap you, and doing so on behalf of sex offenders like Tracy Banks, who relies on secrecy in order to target a college graduate and a law school graduate, a licensed attorney. When this entity started targeting me more so as I passed the California bar and went into the legal profession, and I was subject to the pattern of conduct while being a licensed attorney. And the demon-possessed gang stalking attorneys in California were targeting me in the workplace. And then the entity uses that to falsely depict your character as being gravely disabled under the Welfare and Institutions Code. That's called malice. And those are criminals well before they pass the California bar, by the way. They're criminals in law school. They're criminals while they're studying the bar. They're criminals while they're sitting around taking the bar in the specific environment. And the College of Law, University of Laverne College of Law, adjacent to the Ovid Family Community Library, is the direct evidence of that. And such institutions should lose their accredited status if they have it, and they should not be permitted to teach the law. They're engaging in criminal conduct. That is literally speaking to demonstrating the fact that you are unfit to be in the practice of law. There are things that you have to pass and engage in making sure that you pass a certain level of moral stature before, and also literally your criminal record, even though if you have committed crimes, you're not necessarily barred from practicing law. And I wonder why that is, because you have so many criminals that go into the practice of law, especially in California, but nonetheless, you have the entity that's engaging in what is moral turpitude in their legal pursuits. They're gang stalking while they're going to class at the University of College of Laverne, the law school, where I've documented the Ontario Police Department gang stalking in helicopter. It's already documented. Fake son over my head at that college. Gang stalking pacing over my head in circles in helicopter. And then you're looking at the fake son that's over the demons in units 33 through 64 who are stalking with amplified noise, as I remind you about that evidence. They don't mind going to federal prison. And by the way, that's where they belong. They belong in federal prison. While the entity is engaging in what is psychologically torturing the person that is blowing the whistle on them, understand why every judge that engaged in criminal defamation is going to federal prison. Understand why Thomas Garza, who evaded service of process, because the entity sought to obstruct justice so that they could commit murder, steal my property, falsely depict my character, and do so without there never being any word about it, by evading service of process. This is why Thomas Garza belongs in federal prison, while I am to date subject to the pattern of conduct. I was supposed to be dead a long time ago. Based on the criminal conduct of the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department and the criminal conduct of the Ontario Police Department, targeting somebody that has never been a criminal, and I have never suffered from any mental infirmities or psychological infirmities. And the entity is doing so in real time. That's why the judges, every single last one of them that acted with Tracy Banks in furtherance of getting any sort of power of attorney, anybody that's in these gang stalking courtrooms in California, testifying to any sort of criminal, engaging in any acts of what would be criminal defamation while seeking to falsely depict my character on the stand. They got on the stand, and that is the criminal act of what is going to substantiate federal prison, because they did so in furtherance of stealing from me and engaging in criminal defamation as an entity while they were in the entire time gang stalking me and psychologically torturing like they are right now. That's why they're all going to federal prison, and they know who they are. It includes Eric Corey Spencer. He's going to federal prison. That's why he's going to federal prison while the entity is still gang stalking inside of Tracy Banks' apartment at Woodside Senior Apartments, where the fake son speaking to an ongoing government program, seeking to target somebody that has already exposed them, and they continuously do so, speaking to the mental infirmities that they suffer from, the delusions that they suffer. Because there is no question or mystery regarding everything that I'm speaking to: the amplified audible activity, the dynamic engineered light, the idle fake sun, and also the juxtaposition of that same exact pattern of conduct in LA, where LAPD was practicing the same criminal system while I was gainfully employed, having no problem maintaining and keeping a job and taking care of myself in Los Angeles, while the entity violated my constitutional right, my liberty right to have a job and be free from gang stalking terrorism. This is why Tracy Banks is going to a mental asylum for the rest of her life. And every gang stalking relative that aided in criminally defaming my character while my relatives sought to steal from me and falsely depict my character, they're going to federal prison. That's where Eric Corey Spencer is going. He's going to federal prison while the people of the state are gang stalking me, while Ontario police is gang stalking me, while these demons come onto the property where AVANATH Capital Management is going to be prosecuted civilly and criminally for it. Eric Corey Spencer is going to federal prison because he was criminally defaming me in furtherance of this very pattern of conduct for this unlawful purpose. And he maliciously targeted his own relative in doing so. That's a demon-possessed gang stalker. That's the malice of the entity, where your family is actually targeting you in furtherance of murdering you. And they wanted to do it for money. They wanted to do it for profit. That's why they're going to federal prison. The entity is harming itself. The entity is exposing itself. Every judge, every gang stalking attorney, everybody engaging and participating, and I want the federal government, hear me very clear. Everyone participating in all of these acts where I have never sat in one courtroom. No one has ever asked me any question. No one has ever revealed to me anything about having any sort of exercise of authority over the circumstances of my life, which you don't have any right to do so. And they necessarily did it to a licensed attorney, one that is fully capable and having no mental illness issues whatsoever. They did it secretly on purpose, because you're supposed to just be overwhelmed and they're supposed to pull the rug underneath your feet, and then all of a sudden you find yourself kidnapped and not getting out, and nobody answers any questions because they've already established it on paper. They've also taken over everything that you own. That's what Tracy Banks sought to do. That's what the state of California sought to accomplish. There's a reason why they did it to me secretly, because there is no way that Tracy Banks can stand in my face. There's no way that anyone will look at what has been put on paper and witness what it is that I've exposed, and literally my person, my history, the way that I've lived my life. Nothing about my history nor how I currently live or communicate and document, and as I'm prosecuting and enforcing my own constitutional rights, is speaking to mental illness at any level. And the fact that an American citizen has to go to that extent is unlawful and unconstitutional as well. But this is speaking to public corruption. And AVANATH Capital Management is going to compensate for it on top of that. The ongoing amplified booming at 6:15 p.m. The ongoing amplified booming again occurring approximately every 5 minutes, 6:10 p.m. Again, 6:05 p.m. while the engineer light is remaining on the same exact east living room wall that you saw it this morning, while the fake sun was over the same exact apartment building during the 9 a.m. hour. It has nothing to do with sunlight. It's speaking to stationary presence of light that is impossible to naturally occur. That supernatural occurrence that's happening inside of the defendant's apartment is speaking to her mental illness, by the way. And this mentally ill person with multiple personalities and a whole secret life that people do not even know about, but they're going to learn about it when she's prosecuted. And you're also going to learn about the whole secret system that's in operation in California. And it is, as I've referred to it and exposed it, federal group stalking and monitoring, where a population of demon-possessed, that is mentally ill, people are going to prison. They're going to prison. Gang stalking police officers, based on the unlawful threat that they pose to your life, where they are in operation of deadly weapons such as guns, and they're bearing badges, and they at any moment are controlling the narrative, stating that you pose a threat to them. And they are stating that by virtue of falsely depicting your character, falsely accusing you of some crime, where they're engaged in present pursuant to criminal summoning, those very same facts are what are likely to result in it creates a threat to your life and safety. Murdering you and then claiming that you were threatening them. That's a delusional psychopath and a demon-possessed one that's engaged in this system of public corruption, gang stalking you. And then falsely depicting the character of that person. And the actual threat is the police officer. That's why you go to federal prison as gang stalking police. And the entire gang of demons, gang stalking in June 22nd, 2022, are going to federal prison. And this evidence of what I'm documenting right now is relevant to why they're going to federal prison. So let me read you again the badge numbers and the names of those who are indeed going to federal prison, starting with the Ontario Police Department. There is a Daisy affiliated with the Ontario Ovitt Family Community Library, waging false allegations on June 22nd, 2022. She's going to federal prison. While I'm subject to psychological torture and ongoing gang stalking by also the same city, the same entity, the city of Ontario, and the same community, on the people of the state, the demon possessed in Ontario, California, who are hostile because I'm documenting Daisy, and I'm documenting the Ontario Police Department, and I'm documenting the San Bernardino County, who committed a kidnapping, all right, through false allegations, in concert with Tracy Banks, who's going to a mental asylum as well. And this is inspiring the ongoing psychological torture via the amplified booming, loud noises inside of this apartment, which is criminal interference with quiet enjoyment by AVANATH. And it is also by the demon-possessed who are residing, who are going to prison and mental asylums at the venue. All right, and it's the prosecution of the state as well. All right, but I want to be clear. Let me give a highlight to those who are going to federal prison, and it includes Daisy. She is on June 22nd, 2022, out of the by admission of the entity, on video and on podcast, making false allegations. And my podcast is also the directly rebutting evidence of what is actually happening before they arrive on the scene, and they lie on the record regarding what it is that I did, and the inspiration for the people of the state lying on me, and very clearly and blatantly lying, is because they're gang stalking me. They're also gang stalking in the specific environment under the fake sun. And they're also doing amongst engineered light that I'm calling out while the demon possessed are wearing police uniforms, and they're psychologically torturing me at the same time that they are harassing me and waging false allegations and kidnapping me. They're doing so. Why are they lying about the allegations? Understand the purpose of it is to engage in what is obstruction of justice. I'm going into the library on this morning to document yet another video of the Ontario police gang stalking me where they knew I was sleeping, stalking me while I'm sleeping outside, while this entity is interfering with my liberty rights to have a job. I can't practice law without being gang stalked by the demon-possessed attorneys that are sworn into the California bar, targeting me in the workplace. And doing so while I am then taking it upon myself to enforce my constitutional rights and moving away from the people of the state, that is Tracy Banks, and getting away from her while she is continuously threatening my life and safety, criminal summoning the entity in order to maintain a paper trail, in order to maintain, again, libelous assertions about what it is that I've done and my characters, trying to establish criminal defamation as a matter of record. Because Tracy Banks planned years ago to make sure that she had what is the so-called artillery in order to render illegitimate the evidence that she knew was coming. Because she knew years ago that I was going to expose her. I know that she's a demon. She's demon possessed. I know that she's engaged in witchcraft, but she's not going to be prosecuted because she serves Satan. She's going to be prosecuted because her service to Satan has inspired her to engage in criminal conduct, which is unlawful, that she does as a state actor, which is a matter of public corruption. That's why that demon-possessed gang stalker is going to be prosecuted. And it is in furtherance of a conspiracy with the state who responded to her criminal acts of summoning. They engaged in it together while they were targeting me together. And it is a matter of documentation starting from May of 2018, when I am forced to move out of my apartment where the people of the state, outside of my knowledge and consent, are living in my apartment where I'm subject to the same exact P.O.C, which is also a matter of video evidence. In May of 2018, the fake son, the Upland Police Department, and criminal summoning, gang stalking in that video, as you can audibly hear the plane and helicopter activity. They were gang stalking for a prolonged period, and there is no son that's remaining stationary ever anywhere, but the pattern of conduct is documented while it's remaining stationary over Woodside Senior Apartments in March of 2025. The entity is keeping the fake son over me for the duration of the day in May of 2024. And in May of 2018, the entity is keeping the sun over the top of my head while I am in the presence of state actors who are the Upland Police Department, who are also heavily documented throughout the body of evidence as well. But this is starting from the beginning. The criminal acts of obstruction of justice. Why are the people of the state lying and engaging in what is lying with the police? Because they know that they're lying. They're lying together. Because the police know exactly what I'm doing. They know that I'm not following anybody around in the library. They know that I was at the front desk having conversations with the people of the state, which they knew what I was recording it on my podcast because they're monitoring my devices. So not only am I giving proof to prosecute in court regarding the pattern of conduct, which includes false allegations that are maliciously asserted, because they're not only gang stalking, they're monitoring on devices. They're monitoring everything that I'm doing. So you're intentionally lying in order to engage in a criminal objective, to kidnap me. This is what the Ontario Police and the people of the state, including employees at the Ovid Family Community Library, like Sean Thrasher, has a pattern of engaging in. Like Daisy on June 22nd, 2022, engaged in by admission of the entity, because I had never seen Daisy before ever in my life. But she surfaced out of nowhere where I had never spoken to her, seen her ever. And she is waging false allegations. And it is clearly shown, proven, as you listen to the podcast that I also highlighted for June 22nd, June 16, 2022, and the kidnapping that happened on this day. I am referencing the kidnapping that is occurring on June 16, 2022, and I am released from kidnapping from the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, where they sought to kidnap me via abuse and exercising fictitious authority under the under the Welfare and Institutions Code. And doing so by via kidnapping. So they are in my presence by kidnapping, and by being in my presence, having no relationship to me because I'm not cooperating, in that I'm not acting out by not cooperating, meaning I'm not answering their questions. I'm not responding to them, and I know my constitutional rights. And those that are engaging in a such 72-hour hold pursuant to a kidnapping are not exercising any lawful authority. You're also not rendering any diagnosis. You're also not rendering any diagnosis when I'm not talking to you. There's no conversation. So you're literally not diagnosing anything when there's no conversation. Secondly, you're not rendering any lawful diagnosis, and there is no actual lawful legitimate relationship when you are in my presence pursuant to kidnapping. You're also not rendering any legitimate diagnosis when you're gang stalking, psychologically torturing me in that facility, and then you are creating what are libelous assertions about my mind state in order to maintain a criminal record by the state. It's their criminal record that they're creating while they make libelous assertions about diagnosing any mental illness. This is the malice of the entity that is engaging in what is the exercise of fictitious authority and abuse of the Welfare and Institutions Code. Not only do they not have authority under it, while the gang stalkers are kidnapping at the outset, i.e. the Ontario police and the people of the state like Tracy Banks, like Daisy and Stephen and Alan at the Ovid Family Community Library. It's a kidnapping at the outset. That's not going to convert to a lawful confinement by the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, and who then turned me over to the San Bernardino County Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. And by the way, it is malice through and through, because Arrowhead Regional Medical Center is intentionally seeking to engage in criminal defamation and exercise of fictitious authority over someone that they know very well is not mentally ill, while they're psychologically torturing with impossible light activity under the fake sun, which I also documented outside of the windows of that facility, which is at 400 North Pepper in Colton, California, which is documented in what is during daylight savings time, June of 2022, where the entity is keeping the fake sun all day long over Woodside Senior Apartments today and on every other day. And last year, it was over me for the duration of the day in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens, where I juxtaposed the maintenance of that fake sun in Colton at that Arrowhead Regional Medical Center inside of my room, and with my apartment in Los Angeles, California at Alvarado Gardens. There is no perfect alignment with the sun. There's no sun that's going to be outside of my bedroom window and outside of the window of that facility. Arrowhead Regional Medical Center is a state facilitating venue that was gang stalking and psychologically torturing with the intent to render a libelous assertion about my mental health, which it has no actual nor legal bases to do so. They are doing so pursuant to the pattern of conduct that the state of California is engaging in under deliberately crafted legislation, where the state manipulates your life circumstances, targets you, in other words, and then falsely depicts you as mentally ill under those deliberately crafted legislation, such as the Welfare and Institutions Code, section specifically 5,000 through 5550, all right, where they're rendering you mentally ill by what they're doing with me is gravely disabled. It's not an inability to work or provide for myself when the city of Ontario and the city of Los Angeles are gang stalking me in helicopters on an ongoing basis, harassing and terrorizing me in concert with an entire population, practicing a psychologically harmful targeting system, and doing so with the intent to maintain a means of criminal summoning to kidnap you and falsely depict your character in doing so. That's called malice by that entity. And it's a whole elaborate criminal act committed by my own relatives, including Tracy Banks. That's the significance of amplified noise sounding inside of this apartment, by the way, while I'm publishing this kidnapping that the entity committed by this same community in Ontario, California, and in Colton by San Bernardino County, and everybody that is documented. Numerosity shall be no bar to justice, because this whole entity sought to profit off of my demise. And the flip of that is actually what's going to happen. Every gang stalking demon that put their name on a document claiming that you diagnosed something, you did so maliciously, and the specific environment proves it. My credibility speaking to the fact that I don't have to make up things such as stalking by helicopter and by the state and stalking with impossible light activity and stalking under a fake sun proves it, and you're going to prison. You're done with the medical profession. You're done with law enforcement. You're done with the legal profession. You're going to prison and mental asylums. That's the significance of the entity terrorizing with ongoing amplified noise at 6:05, 6:10, 6:15 p.m. And while I'm documenting on right now during the podcast, and that entity is hostile because I'm exposing that. And the Ontario Police Department, who committed a kidnapping pursuant to the malicious acts of criminal summoning, the criminal assertion of false allegations that they know are false. Not that they didn't know. They're maliciously gang stalking. They know everything that I'm doing. They know when my panties are down. This is the P.O.C. So now you're looking at them exercise fictitious authority under the law. You're looking at them engage in their criminal system of abusing the criminal justice system. All right. So the entity is waging criminal assertion of false allegations. This is resulting in what is not a lawful arrest, and it's not even false imprisonment. It's a kidnapping. All right. And the entity is engaged in criminal defamation and harassment. This is no ordinary harassment. This is federal harassment, which again is something that I speak to in the legislation that I advocate with regard to prosecuting this system of public corruption that the state of California is practicing. It is systematic infliction of inhumane suffering, SIIS for federal legislation. It's addressing the federal level of harassment that the Ontario police and the people of the state are engaging in together, like I documented on June 22nd, 2022. So I want to be clear who's going to federal prison. As I'm documenting the publishing it online, the entity engaged in, again, outrageous acts of violating my constitutional and human rights today, keeping me under surveillance in an apartment, doing so by the population who I'm showing you are gang stalking together, even in the midst of the evidence that's going to be presented against it. That's speaking to impunity. That's speaking to mental illness of that entity, by the way. They are aware of what's being documented. You're not appearing innocent. You appear psychopathic. You appear obsessive. You appear delusional. You appear to be obsessed. And that obsession with the target individual is a threat to the life of the American citizen. Okay, the entity is doing so, and gang stalkers who are going to federal prison, threatening my life on June 16, 2022, kidnapping me in furtherance of committing murder, stealing from me, and falsely depicting my character. All of the malicious pattern of conduct is Corey Watson, badge number 80548. R. Guerrero, badge number 20070. And again, many of these demon-possessed gang stalkers who are working for the Ontario Police Department are documented on more than one occasion, including Guerrero, including Corey Walton. You see him gang stalking under the fake sun at 714 North Vine Avenue on October 9, 2024, pursuant to criminal summoning, the very heavily used tactic by the demon-possessed and entirely corrupt Ontario Police Department, who is a terrorist organization, not a police department, not a law enforcement agency, and who was gang stalking me at their police station. This is why they're going to be disbanded. They're entirely corrupt. They are committed to the satanic targeting system, not law enforcement, not protecting and serving American citizens as they are sworn to do so by the oath that they take. They are engaging in what is serving Satan and trying to protect their position with regard to how they appear on the surface. But it's been an abysmal failure. They appear to be obsessed. They appear to be criminal. They appear to be malicious. They appear to be demonic. That's how they actually appear. While I've been documenting them for years, and I've been documenting them while the people of the state are targeting me inside of this apartment, and I'm publishing their criminal acts on the internet, it's pointing directly to that same police department. All right. And the police department is nothing other than the city of Ontario. That's the government. Okay. And that's the state. So Corey Walton, badge number 80548. R. Guerrero, badge number 20070. C. Medina, badge number 80533, is going to federal prison. Hadel Shiapani, badge number 20301. She's going to federal prison. Officer Marcella, badge number 80386, going to federal prison. Officer R. Nunn. Appears to be an African-American male. I don't have a badge number. He's going to federal prison. You can clearly see his image. He's gang stalking. They're all under the fake sun at the Family Community Library, where I am subject to what is a kidnapping after they're just engaged in ongoing loitering in the path, harassment by forceful removal, exclusion from the library where I had a right to remain, and they're doing so to obstruct justice, and they're doing it while they're gang stalking. There is no legitimate exercise of authority by the police at all on this date, and you're looking at them stalking in plain sight too. This is also, actually, they're scared about the video evidence that I was going to publish online. They're scared about the podcast documentation that I captured at the front desk talking to Ovid Family Community Library, and so are the employees. They were scared, and that's why the police arrived at 10:16 in the morning. Corey Walton, who's going to federal prison. All right, and this is a shadowy figure whose guns are at my face while I'm sitting down at the chair. This is somebody that is threatening my life, gang stalking me as a police officer, fully capable of blowing my head off, and then all the demon possessed who are gang stalking and the entity together with the police making up a narrative about how I was threatening him, and that's why he shot me. It happens every day. That's why you're going to prison by gang stalking as police officers. It is axiomatic. Gang stalking police officers, I documented you, you're going to prison. So the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct in operating vehicles, Ontario Police License 1591659, Ontario Police License Vehicle 1591758, Ontario Police Vehicle License 1591409, Vehicle 1037. All right, these demons are gang stalking. I'm not only prosecuting criminal conduct, these are the demon possessed. So this is another reason why it's a national security threat that the demon possessed are currently masquerading as a police department, calling itself the Ontario Police Department. They are inclined to criminal conduct, which my evidence also shows. And you need to know that the demon possessed, those who serve Satan, are inherently hostile towards your God-given rights. Okay, our constitutional rights are not given by the government. They're actually God-given. If you know your history and whatnot, and if you have any fundamental idea about who you are as a person and the rights that we are entitled to, and we are supposedly this country is supposedly founded on these principles. The demon possessed agency that is going to be disbanded is a benefit to the American public. They are a national security threat while they remain in operation, and they are going to be disbanded because of the numerous kidnappings that they committed while gang stalking and the impunity that they have demonstrated, that they've exhibited while they know that they've been documented for the entire time. That's why they're being disbanded, for that and more. Okay, they are doing so while I am documenting them, and the demon possessed, the agents of the state, are engaged in psychological torture by residents at Woodside senior apartments. And what's their prize? They're going to federal prison, and they're going to mental asylums, and they're willingly doing that. They willingly choose that. These are the mentally ill. I am not exaggerating. They don't even know me personally, and they are going to prison because of their focus on me, their obsession with me, their deluded notion that you are harming somebody that has fully demonstrated the fact that you're not stopping your federal case. You're not slowing down the wheels of justice. There is no witchcraft or no hoodoo voodoo that's going to cause the federal government to see it your way, which requires an outright and entirely unreasonable and unlawful disregard of evidence. That's not going to happen. They're all going to prison, and they're all going to be removed from their apartments. And AVANATH Capital Management is also going to be criminally prosecuted as well as civilly prosecuted. All right. And this is the entity that is being published online while the entity is engaged in what is an ongoing retaliation. So just maintaining an ongoing course of amplified noise, harassing and terrorizing and psychologically torturing me based on what they know that I'm doing as they keep me under surveillance on the internet and on my devices. And these gang stalking police officers are going to be prosecuted for it. It's directly relevant to how long they're going to prison. All right. Not just the kidnapping, but the ongoing criminal acts of obstruction of justice while I publish their criminal conduct on the internet where they are monitoring me. All right. The entity is doing so with regard to the P.O.C. at Woodside Senior Apartments. And as you are aware, the entity kept the fake sun over me. And at 4:01 p.m., that fake sun that's remaining over at the same leasing office where I was at 4:01 p.m. on this day in 2024, as you could see LAPD gang stalking and helicopter encounter with the people of the state, including Tiffany Sherez, including Marina Davila, including Rita Vega, including the Caretos that are gang stalking by residents at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, California, where the same pattern of conduct that defies nature. You're talking about what is, first of all, not going to be the sun that's remaining over building 1810 for the duration of my workday. Because I'm capturing it in the video at 9 o'clock, at 9:52 on the, what would be, as I'm facing it, would be my left side of building 1810 during the 9 a.m. hour. And at 4:01 p.m., it's on the right side of the same apartment building at at Alvarado Gardens, where LAPD is gang stalking. That's the identification of gang stalking. It's also your ability to know they're not just criminals who are stalking, they're demon possessed. That's what's inspiring this particular criminal pattern of conduct. They're demon possessed. And that's what's wrong with the entire Los Angeles Police Department. It's not just a couple. It's not just the demons that were stalking in those particular helicopters on that day. It is the condition of the entire Los Angeles Police Department and the population that was gang stalking me in Los Angeles in conformity to the demonic pattern of conduct in the state of California that I have been documenting, that is proving as a matter of tangible evidence for anyone to witness. Whether you are a believer or a follower of Christ Jesus or not, you cannot deny the evidence that speaks for itself. All right. The entity is covering up the fake sun, however, that's over the same exact apartment building at 4:01 p.m. And you will see the clouds cover it up, and you know that it's there. And you also know that because the day before yesterday and also after today, March 15th in 2024, I continuously captured that fake sun. that is every day setting in alignment to my bedroom window and rising in alignment to my living room window in Los Angeles. While the demons that are stalking with ongoing amplified noise amongst impossible light activity under an idle fake sun over the apartment buildings 33 through 48 are stalking in the same manner, and in a manner that also speaks to the fact that they are indeed gang stalking through a malicious system and operation in the state and the environment that defies nature. That is the fake sun being over units 33 through 48 for 8+ hours, and the fake sun being over me during my workday at building 1810 from the left side to the right side of that apartment building during the work hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., which is what I document Monday through Friday while I was living during this time of year last year in 2024 in Los Angeles. This is the P.O.C. So I want to make sure that that is clear. The entity is doing so because there are a bunch of angry demons. These are psychopaths. Because who is angry about being shown to be a stalking someone, somebody that is mentally disturbed? Who engages in this sort of long, drawn out, elaborate means of trying to target someone, somebody that is minding their business and going after their life's pursuits, like myself as an attorney, and then going into property management where you're seeing the LAPD gang stalking me in the workplace. And then you're going to turn your attention to what the entity was doing in these corrupt gang stalking courthouses where they're trying to depict me on paper as being one who was gravely disabled, incapable of providing for myself. And you're looking at the state targeting, psychologically harming, in order to provide what is supposed to be the material for supporting that libelous assertion, which is a criminal act. That's called malice. Pure, unadulterated malice. And there are a lot of people who are going to federal prison for it. Okay? It is currently 7:01 p.m. This is a sex offense that the state of California is engaging in. While they provide evidence against themselves, stalking with amplified audible activity, the entity is always admitting to being a sex offender. While the entity is stalking with impossible light activity, the entity is always admitting to being a sex offender. That's going to translate into the company itself, AVANATH, being prosecuted for sexual violence while psychologically torturing the occupants on its property, which is an unprecedented basis, a never before contemplated basis of recovery in civil court and a criminal prosecution of a malicious commercial actor facilitating the state's P.O.C. All right, it is currently 7:02 p.m. This is the pattern of conduct on Saturday, March 15th, 2025. This is P.O.C.
No, just tell those people the sooner that they pay, the earlier you'll get a table and then probably in a good spot.
Yeah.
How many people?
How
many people?
I really don't want more than, like last time I think there was 4 people, but I know at the end of the table you can put 2 more chairs, so it could be 6 people or something like that. But I wouldn't imagine more than that. I never want that. Otherwise, they can get their own table.
Right.
They can get their own table.
Cool. So they're going to be calling me and telling me that they want to sit with you, right?
Okay, that's the people of the state gang stalking with the entity. The demon is in unit 55. That's the mental health patient who's stalking directly above my head. And all the rest of the mental health patients gang stalking at Woodside are monitoring with the demon that's on Tracy's communication device. It is currently, while she is monitoring through the use of a communication device, she's engaged in federal stalking. The substance of her conversation is nothing other than audible activity legally. They can be talking about dinosaurs and rabbits, but they're going to be talking about whatever with regard to the demon that calls her communication device while I'm in the midst of documenting and publishing evidence. It's an ongoing concerted effort by the demons residing at the venue and the demons surrounding who are monitoring while the Union Pacific train is a means of impossible audible activity. It is as impossible as the light you've seen shooting through this same defendant, this mental health patient's apartment across her cabinets. She is monitoring me now through her phone conversation and having a demon on speakerphone. This is a female. It's 8:44 a.m. Getting on her phone at around 8:35 p.m. while I am publishing the sexual violence that the entity just committed. This is monitoring while my panties are down in the bathroom, stalking with amplified noise, just like the demon in the mental health patient in unit 55 is doing in the living room above me. This is what they're doing while I am seated in the bathroom and monitoring, just like Union Pacific is monitoring me while I'm inside of this living room. Audible activity, the train that you're not going to hear inside of the apartment. That's what they were doing while I'm inside of the bathroom. And this is sexual violence that this same psychopath engages in with a whole entity, Tracy Banks. This is the person that wants to be me. This is a person that is a career sex offender. This is a person that is indeed a mental health patient and is right now exhibiting another personality while she is entirely focused on me and gang stalking me. And demons call her phone to monitor me, including Eric Corey Spencer. His license plate is JABO. He is currently in Oakland, California. He is gang stalking in the state while the fake son remains over me in Ontario, California. He is a part of the pattern of conduct, and he also does so on her communication device in the same manner, aware of what I am doing, and aids in that criminal engagement inside of this apartment with the entity that's residing at the venue and in concert with the city of Ontario while I'm documenting and publishing evidence against the entire state on my communication device. So I just want to be clear on that. The entity is doing so with regard to, this is the alternative to the mental health patient pacing around with amplified sound of like the ceilings are cracking. So this is the alternative. The entity can do so at the same time. The entity could do so with plane activity. The entity can do so with helicopter activity. This is the tactic right now. This is the current method. A demon on her phone. Her voice is the audible activity on speakerphone. While these are actually two demon-possessed psychopaths who are monitoring me, and their outward demonstration, just like hammering outside, is supposed to be focused on me. And then you're always mindful of the light that's appearing on a dark, cloudy day inside of her apartment, in the dark on the living room wall, where it remains in the same manner during a sunny day where the fake sun sits over the apartment building for over 9 hours. And you're understanding what is the focal point of everything that the demon-possessed are doing. And I'm also speaking to what is impunity. While sex offenders are being exposed, they exhibit hostility while their sexual violence is being documented about them, while it's being published. This is speaking to mental instability. This is speaking to, again, the hitman who actually despises me and engages in what is harming me psychologically, torturing me, harassing and terrorizing me with the very people that she associates with in order to focus on me. And the delusional psychopath with the multiple personalities outwardly exhibits a disconnection, a nonchalant demeanor. That's a psychopath, not an innocent person. You know that because of the specific environment. And also the body of evidence speaking to the collateral harms that Tracy Banks has already engaged in. And this is speaking to the malice of everyone that is on her communication device. I want to be clear, her phone records are going to be a part of the prosecution of the state of California. They engage in the P.O.C. via her cell phone, calling with simultaneity. It's entirely demonic, the use of her device. She uses it to monitor, and she's using it to monitor now. And this third party is speaking on the telephone regarding what is no constitutionally protected activity at all. It is criminal engagement in the P.O.C. It is via the people of the state using communication devices in violation of the federal stalking statute. And this third party is knowingly and intentionally doing so. It's within the P.O.C. As I begin documenting on podcasts with simultaneity, the amplified sound of the train begins sounding. That is speaking to these demons' knowledge about me documenting them as well. Okay. It's speaking to malice of psychopaths who are gang stalking another while they are on a stage. They're on a stage in engineered light. They're on a stage under the fake sun. They're on a stage with regard to the state's stalking pattern of conduct that's already a matter of record. And you're witnessing the state stalking and monitoring while the population does so on its behalf vicariously, while seeking to outwardly, even though you are now aware and you are witnessing, wow, these people are really crazy, when you're looking at them wanting to behave as though they're doing something else or focus on something else when all they're doing is monitoring. Psychopaths practice that as a lifestyle, as a way of life in California. All right. This is speaking of malice and impunity. This is criminal conduct by AVANATH Capital Management as well. Criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, while Union Pacific is the impossible method of the maintenance of audible activity inside of the apartment. It's also relevant to what is ongoing harassment and an ongoing criminal act of obstruction of justice while I'm documenting in the midst of documentation. It is as audacious as what is using your communication device. Let me be clear. They don't have a right to live here. The police don't have a right to be inside of your apartment absent your consent. This is what the state is doing while it's gang stalking you through the population. So understand how unlawful and malicious it is, and how psychopaths that are then caught in the midst of that criminal system continue engaging in it. Okay. This is the P.O.C. It's currently 8:49 p.m. We're the mental health patient in unit number 55, acting as an entity, targeting me while my legs were spread apart and my panties are down, in concert with the sex offender currently on her phone in relevant position and engineered light, are monitoring together while the impossible noise of the ceiling cracking. And this is the same entity that committed a kidnapping on June 16, 2022, and they're all going to prison. And it's much long overdue. There is no statute of limitations with regard to the pattern of conduct, with regard to kidnapping, with regard to the sexual violence by the gang stalkers who commit that ongoing P.O.C. as I'm capturing it to date. There is no statute of limitations. So I just want to be clear with regard to the malice and the entity that is acting with full knowledge in real time. All the mental health patients that are gang stalking, including the family with the minor children, they're all acting with this level of malice. They're all acting on behalf of the government. Their ongoing criminal pattern of conduct that they have no constitutionally protected right to engage in, whether or not they understand the law, whether or not they can spell Constitution, they have been surrounded with what is an insurmountable case. And they're all going to be prosecuted one by one as they act as an entity. Okay, the entity is engaging in what is the maintenance of the elements, and the unemployed elderly are violent sex offenders, all predators living at the venue so that they can masturbate and salivate over my genitalia while they're targeting me with amplified noise inside of the bathroom. That is the illegitimate and an unlawful interest of the government that should not be engaging in surveillance in bathrooms. That is the definition of sexual violence of sex offenders. And it is the city of Ontario. That is why the Ontario Police Department is being disbanded. They have proven that they are absolutely useless. They are nothing but a waste of funds on criminal conduct, terrorism in the United States. That's why when I'm being documented, when I'm documenting sexual violence in a bathroom, that is in concert with a pedophile for a mother. That's why the Ontario Police Department, literally those facts are tied together and relevant in that regard. It's speaking to the disbanding of the sex offenders that call themselves the City of Ontario government, the police department, etc. The bunch of sex offenders that are residing at the unit, gang stalking with this so-called hitman with a high school degree who thought she was going to outsmart me and walk away with everything that belongs to me and then kill me and try to paint me as being some sort of mentally ill person, when her multiple personalities are on full display for everyone to witness. This is a maniacal psychopath who is obsessed with me and who is engaging in still stalking me while she is listening and is more fearful with all the adjectives that I use to describe her in her psychosis. And she's seeming wanting to maintain an ongoing demeanor of being uninterested and ignorant about it. And there's nothing persuasive about it. Everything she does is about me, and it's absolutely pathetic. It is pathetic, but it's criminal, more importantly. Okay. And it's the same with regard to the demon, the third party, the people of the state that are on her communication device, creating audible activity in engineered light and relevant position. It is the P.O.C. It is currently 8:52 p.m. This is what the city of Ontario is participating in while the amplified train sounds. They are talking about, again, the club, which is a facilitating venue where I've documented the entity gang stalking. It is in the folder called the People of the State, this so-called this little ghetto club in Ontario that they're conversing about, where the entity is gang stalking. The club owner is documented already in this folder. This is the substance of the audible activity. He's going to be prosecuted for federal group stalking and monitoring. And the entity that is talking about the club, they're gang stalking me and talking about it. The club itself is a facilitating venue. All they're doing is engaging in the P.O.C. So I just want to speak to that. And the demons that are pacing, and the mental health patient that's pacing in Unit 55 is speaking to the focus of Tracy Banks on her phone call. The amplification is that which defies nature. It's an impossible occurrence. It's an intentional act, in other words. And that's speaking to, again, a psychopath with multiple personalities who is maintaining a phone conversation to gang stalk her own daughter. This is a pathetic criminal who is a threat to national security. This is a terrorist, and all of them are. Gang stalking with people like Tracy Banks is going to have a lot of people going to prison right along with her, because she's going to a mental asylum. There are a lot of people at Woodside that are going to mental asylums. There are a lot of people going to federal prison for gang stalking with this co-defendant that is very highly incriminating to all of them, including the government that is gang stalking me directly. It is, again, 8:53 p.m. This is P.O.C. The phone records of this third party is going to be used to prosecute the people of the state. Many of them gang stalking, for example, with the Ontario police. They're not avoiding federal prison. They're gang stalking with the police when their audible activity and presence in the path and their malice whereby they are sharing in psychological torture on her via her communication device. It's directly relevant to prosecuting every means whereby this so-called hitman seeks to target with those whose name I know and those whose name I don't know, and I don't need to know to prosecute them. All right. It is currently, again, 8:54 p.m. and this is P.O.C.